Marvel 12 Talismans. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Morgan Bank. At the same time, something unpleasant happened in Morgan Bank across the street. A few minutes ago, a thin man stood in front of the crosswalk on the road, raised his hands and stretched his body, waiting alone for the red light on the other side of the road to flash. The man was wearing a black sweatshirt and jeans, with a terrifying demon mask on his face. His appearance was similar to the evil villain Devil who has become famous recently, but people passing by would not even look at him twice. Devil is the most popular villain on the internet, and his number of fans even exceeds that of many superheroes. This has led to various demon masks being sold out, and countless fanatical fans of Devil are wandering around the streets with masks all day long. If you take the New York subway, and a train car, there is a high probability that you can see a row of passengers wearing demon masks sitting together. At this time, it is recommended that you stay away from this group of lunatics, and it is best to exit the car and wait for the next subway. But the quality of this fan is still very high. At least he will wait for the red light when walking on the zebra crossing. The sun stretched his shadow very long, shining on the stinky ditch in the civilian restaurant behind him. On the wall of the restaurant was a huge skull graffiti. The gangsters in the alley next to them were gathering together to absorb fans. Their faces were depressed. Opposite them was the luxurious Morgan Bank, one of the pillar industries of the J.P. Morgan Chase Group. The red dot across the road flickered little by little until it ended. The green light came on, and the man was about to take a step, when suddenly a dilapidated pickup truck braked in front of him with a harsh friction sound. The devil mask on his face showed a dissatisfied expression, and he pinched his wrist. "Devil, I'm glad you're not late this time, but did you forget to bring something?" The car door was pushed open, and a man wearing a black hood on his head roared, "Are you going to rob Morgan Bank with nothing?" It turns out that people who worship the devil have poor brains. We don't have much time. If we continue to chat, the next time we meet will be in Rikers Island prison. The driver of the pickup turned around and said with a smile. He was wearing a black stocking on his head with holes for his eyes. The man with the black hood angrily gave up his seat. The demon was stunned for a moment, then got into the car and closed the door. No one noticed that in a trash can a few dozen meters away, a man struggled to climb out of the trash can. He pulled off the deformed demon mask with great effort, and his face was covered with unknown liquid. A black man was sitting on the passenger seat. There was no disguise on his face. He raised his head to the demon and threw a Browning pistol and several magazines. The demon took the pistol and magazines without saying a word. The man in stockings who was driving glanced at him in the rearview mirror. The man in stockings suddenly saw that the demon mask was smiling. The man in stockings blinked, and the demon mask returned to a fixed expression. He exhaled and threw the unrealistic thoughts out of his head. Although he was already a classic criminal wanted by the police, he was still nervous when facing Morgan Bank. But his nervousness was not fear, but excitement. Morgan Bank has a total deposit of $1.5 trillion, accounting for 25% of the total deposits in the United States. Even if it is only a branch, the US dollars and gold stored in the vault far exceed the banks he has robbed before. "Guys, this is definitely our last order." The stockings man turned the steering wheel to the left. "If you succeed, the wealth you get is enough to squander your life. If you fail, you will die or be imprisoned for life." The stockings man stepped on the accelerator and the pickup truck engine roared. The man sitting next to the devil instantly blushed. He took out a submachine gun and stretched out his hand to shoot at passers-by, roaring wildly. A strong sense of pushing back came, and the pickup truck accelerated with full force while honking the horn all the way, crashing into the Morgan Bank opposite with a roar. The security guard at the door realized that something was wrong and immediately picked up his weapon to stop these people. The black man sitting in the co-pilot raised his hand and shot a shuttle, sweeping the security guard's body full of blood holes. The pickup truck smashed the glass door of Morgan Bank, entered the lobby, and continuously hit several staff members and waiting customers until it stopped in front of the bank counter. The stockings man opened the door and stepped on a body that was caught under the car to get out. He opened fire. "Dear gentlemen and ladies, squat down and hold your head now, and you still have a chance to survive." Gunfire roared in the lobby. The black man and the other masked man skillfully shot and eliminated the security and staff in the lobby, and cut off the alarm call. The lobby manager was just chatting with a lady, but he saw this scene and knew what was happening in the bank. "The cash is in the vault. Don't hurt my employees and customers." He fell to the ground in the sound of gunfire before he finished speaking. The stockings man put down his gun and rushed to the counter to find the key. "You watch these hostages and guard the door," the stockings man said to the black man. The devil followed the stockings man, and the masked man walked through the magnificent hall to the warehouse, and used the key to open the door of the vault. The door of the vault was open, and it was full of green banknotes. The masked man rushed in first, but suddenly the stockings man at the door raised his gun and shot. The 9mm bullet penetrated his chest directly, and blood spurted out. The masked man looked back and looked behind him. His mask was printed with an expression of disbelief, and then he fell to the ground with a bang. "You know, one less person can distribute more money. Of course, the biggest reason is that he deserves to die, and dared to abandon me last time." The stockings man walked into the warehouse with a canvas bag. He smiled at the devil while putting the money in it. "Of course I will not forget that you drove back to save me last time. Go kill Mo outside, and we will split it equally." Suddenly his voice stopped, and this time he clearly saw the devil mask smiling. Luo Xia raised his hand, and the stockings man raised his gun in fear, but everything was over. The flames spewed like dragon breath, and in an instant the stockings man and the huge amount of US dollars turned into ashes. Luo Xia raised his head and smiled at the camera in the corner, and he turned and left. When he returned to the lobby again, he could already hear the sirens coming from afar. "Where are they?" The black man with a gun rushed up and asked anxiously. Luo Xia took out the Browning pistol. "You will see each other soon." Luo Xia fired a little awkwardly and emptied the magazine. "Everyone knows that demons do not use guns." Luo Xia slowly came to the counter. "The tax in this area is very high, and the police are dispatched very quickly." The police holding the explosion-proof shield had already gotten out of the car and rushed to the door. Luo Xia raised his hand and activated the dragon spell again. The broken glass door was completely melted. Several explosion-proof police officers were blown away and fell to the ground with flames all over their bodies, not knowing whether they were dead or alive. A column of fire flew out again, and the police car that was hit exploded instantly. "Report to headquarters. We have encountered a superpower. Request for support. Request for support," a police officer shouted into the intercom. Amid the chaotic screams, Luo Xia reached out and gently knocked on the bulletproof glass of the counter. A female staff member hiding under the table had no choice but to come out under his gaze. "Excuse me, how can I help you, Mr. Devil?" No one in New York doesn't recognize this mask. He picked up a paper bag beside him and handed it in. He smiled and said, "Old banknotes, non-consecutive numbers, full, thank you." Even though there was a layer of solid bulletproof glass between them, the staff did not dare to disobey the devil's words and could only do as he was told. Chapter 52 Captain America's Shield. Captain America was driving on the road in a shield vehicle. After the alarm and gunshots, everyone looked at the chaos on the roadside. Morgan Bank? Was there a bank robbery? Captain America looked at Director Nick and asked, "I deposited a sum of money in Morgan Bank in 1944. I hope I can get it out. Even if the bank is conducting an explosion-proof drill, they won't use a car to smash the door." Director Nick took a look and said, "It looks like a bank robbery carefully planned by criminals, but it has nothing to do with us. The police have arrived." Captain America frowned as he listened to the continuous gunshots. Every gunshot could mean the death of a life. "Stop." The car braked to a stop. Even after 70 years, people would still subconsciously obey Captain America's orders. "Captain, even if the hound helps the cat catch the mouse, the cat may not appreciate it." Director Nick grabbed Captain America's shoulders and reminded him, "SHIELD and the police are two systems, and our division of labor and functions are also different. But I can't just watch the criminal escape and wait for him to kill more innocent people. Captain America's attitude was firm. But you just woke up. You have been asleep for 70 years, and you don't understand the world now. Director Nick waved his hand and said, interfering with the work of the police will bring all kinds of troubles. S.H.I.E.L.D. is a secret department. Captain America put his hand on the car door. No matter how time passes and how the world changes, the weak need help, and the position of justice will never waver. Captain America pushed open the car door and got out of the car. Director Nick shouted behind him, S.H.I.E.L.D. is also just. Our mission is to prevent ordinary civilians from being troubled by supernatural events or super-advanced technology. Suddenly, an explosion interrupted Director Nick's words. Under the gaze of everyone, a high-temperature flame detonated a police car, and several police officers were blown away by the heat wave. Captain America looked back at Director Nick, who shrugged and said helplessly, well, someone is going to be in trouble. Attention all agents, he yelled into the intercom. Captain America slowly walked towards Morgan Bank, adjusting his state with deep breaths, and suddenly a voice came from behind. Captain, you may need this. It was the female agent who was just in the ward. She threw a shield. Captain America reached out to catch it and skillfully placed it on his left hand. Thank you, Captain America said without turning his head. He stroked the red spray paint on the outer circle of the shield with his hand, staring at the white five-pointed star, and many past memories came to his mind. 70 years have passed, and his teammates are no longer around, but this shield still accompanies him in battle. Captain America looked at the mess in front of Morgan Bank, and he started to run and speed up. The back of his fearless charge made all the agents stand in awe. Captain America, someone muttered to himself, and suddenly the next moment all the agents shouted with passion, Captain America! Captain America rushed to the door of the bank. He had just seen the bodies lying in a pool of blood and the crowd shivering in the corner, and suddenly 3 flames came towards him. Captain America quickly raised his shield to block it. Boom! A huge flame burst out on the shield, and Captain America was instantly blown away, and he stopped only after he hit the police car more than 10 meters behind him. His shield also flew out of his hand and flew towards the unlucky Director Nick. Fortunately, Director Nick had been observing the battlefield, and he quickly squatted down and rolled to the side to avoid being cut in half by the shield. Bang! A loud noise was heard, and the shield actually shattered the bulletproof glass of the vehicle, and 1/3 of the shield body was inserted into the car window. The crowd's cheers suddenly stopped, and the expressions on their faces froze. In front of them, Captain America was blown away before he even entered the bank. Director Nick grabbed the shield with both hands, stepped on the car body, and pulled out the shield with all his strength. Hey, Captain, are you okay? Director Nick picked up the shield and asked, I believe you just slept too long. You should need some time to do recovery training. The dented roof of the car raised a hand. I'm fine. Captain America turned over and climbed up from the roof, taking the shield thrown by Director Nick. 70 years, the world has changed a lot, Captain America said with emotion. Even criminals who robbed banks can control high-energy flames? No, that won't be an ordinary criminal. Director Nick said, it seems we need some intelligence support. In the bank lobby, the explosion that just sounded at the door also passed through the bulletproof glass and reached the ears of the female staff member, which made her stop while loading the banknotes. Luo Xia looked back at her, and she hurriedly continued to put $100 bills into her bag. Was it my eyes that were blurry just now? Luo Xia leaned on the counter and said, I seem to see a man holding a red, white and blue shield. That's Captain America's shield. The staff interrupted. Red symbolizes courage, white symbolizes truth, and blue symbolizes justice. Luo Xia didn't say anything, but looked at her with a smile on her face. The staff hurriedly shut up, bowed and apologized, and continued to work. Outside Morgan Bank, Captain America turned over and got out of the car. He shook his numb left arm and put the shield back on. The attack just now was swift and fierce. Before he could see the situation in the bank lobby clearly, he was blown away by the high-energy flame. If it weren't for the vibranium shield that absorbed most of the energy, I'm afraid he would be in great danger under that attack. Director, There are not many superpowers in New York who can use fire attacks. After analyzing the data sent back from the scene, the person who attacked Captain Rogers is most likely a devil. A voice came from director Nick Xia. Demon. Director Nick felt it was a difficult situation. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s duty is to deal with supernatural events. Whenever there are superheroes or criminals that the police cannot solve, S.H.I.E.L.D. will intervene. Since the demon killed the robbers at the Platinum Heights Hotel, S.H.I.E.L.D. has noticed this superpower. After experiencing many subsequent cases, the demon was defined as a criminal by S.H.I.E.L.D. and needed to be eliminated or imprisoned. S.H.I.E.L.D. also used a lot of power to catch the demon, but it was in vain. The demon always appears irregularly in a certain block in New York, doing good or bad things at will. His clothes are not fixed. The only feature is the demon mask on his face. But since the demon became popular on the internet, more people are wandering on the streets of New York with demon masks. Of course, the bigger reason is that the demon is powerful and has many abilities. S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot arrest or track the demon at all. According to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s information, the demon's known abilities include invisibility, speed, flame attack, and laser attack. Today, the demon came to rob Morgan Bank, and S.H.I.E.L.D. encountered him without any preparation. I'm looking for opinions on whether to have a single female protagonist or multiple female protagonists. You can go to the pinned post in the book club to take a look. I'd also like to thank everyone for their monthly votes, recommendation votes, and rewards. Chapter 53 First Meeting. Okay, Captain, it seems that it's not the criminals who are unlucky, but we are. Director Nick handed the work tablet to Captain America, which contained detailed information about the demons. Captain America was a little confused holding the tablet, and his finger accidentally touched the function key to jump to other pages. Okay, forget that you are an old man who participated in World War II. Director Nick held the tablet and demonstrated it to Captain America. Although I was born in 1918 and participated in World War II, I am not an old man, Captain America retorted. I'm only 27 years old. The devil is a criminal with superpowers. He has committed many crimes in New York in recent months. It will also involve superheroes such as Spider-Woman and Iron Man. The situation is very complicated. Director Nick explained. In general, the devil is very powerful, and those present today are ordinary agents. They do not carry professional equipment such as electromagnetic wave detectors to target the devil. Ordinary firearms are ineffective against the devil, so we can only temporarily avoid the edge. You are an organization established to target these superpowered people, but you have to retreat when facing superpowered criminals. Those hostages are in danger of their lives. Captain America shook his head. And I'm not what you call ordinary agents. Even if I can't beat the devil, I can spend a whole day with him. It's not retreating, but waiting for support. Even if these agents charge bravely, they will only give the demons a few targets to play with, which will not have any effect on the war situation, Director Nick said calmly. Also, the probability of the demon killing civilians when committing crimes is only 13%. If he is not angered, the hostages are safe. Although I have never known S.H.I.E.L.D., I am very disappointed with S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Captain America turned around. The safety of the people should be protected by us, not by the mood of the demon. If we let the demon go this time, what should we do next time he threatens public safety? Captain America walked towards the door of Morgan Bank again, holding his shield diagonally in front of him, alert to possible attacks from any direction. S.H.I.E.L.D. is formulating a plan against the demon. Our goal is to capture him and study his power. Director Nick's voice came from behind. To deal with such a strong enemy, we should have a precise plan and sufficient preparation, rather than just relying on courage and mindless charge. Captain America ignored Nick's words. In World War II, he relied on courage to defeat the Hydra bases one after another. He believed that even after 70 years, both soldiers and agents still needed courage. Captain America was about to approach the door of Morgan Bank again. The frightened police officers were still hiding behind the police car, and no one dared to stick their heads out. Director Nick looked at his lonely back and exchanged glances with the other agents, who were also waiting for his orders with their pistols. Director Nick reached out and scratched his bald head. Well, Director Nick was defeated by Captain America's persistence. People of that era always had such admirable qualities: bravery, justice, kindness, persistence. Very contagious. Not to mention that this person is Captain America. All the agents present grew up listening to his stories. Captain America turned around and caught the pistol thrown by Nick. Although this thing is useless against demons, I remember that demons have never resisted bullets. Captain America nodded, holding his shield in his left hand and his gun in his right hand. A group of SHIELD agents, including Director Nick, opened the safety of their guns and followed him. Captain America looked back. People who don't belong to this era often reminisce about the past. When he led the Howling Commandos to disintegrate Hydra, those members followed behind his shield like this. Mr. Devil, I think you are mistaken. Captain America has disappeared for 70 years. The brave female staff member dared to talk to the devil after a brief contact with him. There are $400,000 in the bag. I hope you are satisfied with my service. She has been working as a bank teller for several years, but this is the first time she has served a devil. Of course I am satisfied, beautiful lady. Luo Xia pinched her collar, and the sweatshirt and jeans on her body immediately turned into a sophisticated suit. Super cool. Is this also your superpower? The female teller clenched her fists and placed them on her chest. From today on, I will be your loyal fan, Mr. Devil. No woman can refuse a man who is powerful, violent, cold, mysterious, terrifying, elegant. And he is so graceful and good at complimenting. Today, the devil robbed $400,000 from Morgan Bank, and he is still rich. She was already imagining the handsome face of the demon under the mask, which must be more handsome than Bernd Anderson and Leonardo DiCaprio. Luo Xia put his index finger on his lips, and the woman shut up. He pointed under the table, and the woman rolled back to the corner where she was hiding. Luo Xia leaned on the counter, looking at the door and waiting. Soon, the red, white and blue shield appeared at the door again. Luo Xia smiled, a happy and joyful smile. So, the first time Steve Rogers saw the demon was like this. The demon leaned against the counter, wearing a well-fitting white suit, with medium-length black hair combed back, looking delicate and elegant. He was holding a bag of US dollars on the counter, which seemed to be his harvest today. There was a dragon-shaped totem on the palm of his right hand. In the information of S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain America had seen this totem, but it was very vague, and the note was that the demon's fire attacks were all emitted from this totem. Of course, the most eye-catching thing about the demon is the demon mask on his face. With just one glance, Captain America knew that he would never forget this smiling face. Hello, Captain Rogers. Captain America did not talk to the demon. He was fully alert to the demon's possible attack. After all, in the previous confrontation, he had already felt the demon's power. Before today, the most powerful enemy Captain America had encountered was the leader of Hydra, the Red Skull. He knew that he would become a demon from today, and he might not change for a long time. Captain America saw the demon turn the palm with the dragon totem, and he subconsciously raised his shield, but the demon's palm was facing the ceiling. Don't be nervous, Luo Xia said with a smile. The next moment, he activated the dragon spell again. Captain America heard a bang in the air, and dozens of high-speed and high-temperature flames rushed out from the demon's palm one after another. They rushed straight to the ceiling and then turned sharply, leaving arc-shaped tracks in the air. Captain America hurriedly put his shield above his head, but those powerful flames seemed to come from all directions, and his shield could not provide 360-degree defense. Thanks to the book Friend Little Monster 3 years old for the 1,000 coin reward. Chapter 54 Confiscating Your Shield. But something that Captain America didn't expect happened. The dozen violent red flames actually passed him, and after easily penetrating the glass, they accurately hit every agent behind him. Screams came one after another, and even the agents with amazing perseverance could not bear the pain of the flames. Captain America looked back and saw that many agents fell unconscious under the heavy blows of the demon, with flames still burning on their chests. Director Nick struggled to get up, and his chest was charred and blood was flowing. The white bones were exposed in the bloody flesh. If the energy of the dragon spell had not been dispersed into more than a dozen parts, thus reducing the attack power. The demon's casual blow would have taken their lives. Captain America, who reacted, fired several shots at the demon, so fast that the sound of the bullets being fired became a long sound. But no matter how fast he was or how accurate his aim was, the bullets could not hit Luo Xia. The rabbit spell not only increased Luo Xia's speed, but also enhanced his reaction ability. Luo Xia's maximum speed was 680 meters per second, while the speed of a pistol bullet was only about 400 meters per second, so he could easily dodge it. Suddenly, the target disappeared from Captain America's sight, and the bullets were embedded in the bulletproof glass of the counter with a loud bang. Captain Rogers, it's not a good habit to point a gun at someone. Captain America saw that the demon had sat on a public seat at the side without knowing when. The demon crossed his hands and placed them on the armrest of the seat, and placed a paper bag full of US dollars on the empty seat on the other side. His smile was calm and elegant. Captain, if you can't surprise me today, then I don't mind letting you continue to sleep, Luo Xia said. Of course, this time it's forever. The highly nervous Captain America continued to shoot, and the bullets missed as expected, and the demon disappeared again. Suddenly, Captain America turned around quickly, with his hands against the shield on his chest. This time, Captain America saw the whole process of the dragon totem lighting up from a close distance. After the dragon spell was fully charged, it emitted a heart-pounding energy, and countless light and heat burst out in an instant. Exclamation mark, comma, 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 exclamation mark, comma, 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 comma. The villain system has already prompted him to obtain the villain value from Captain America. The negative emotions collected include tension, anger, guilt. But there is still no emotion, that is fear. Even though the gap in strength is so huge, facing such a violent and terrifying enemy like the devil, Captain America has not yet developed the emotion of fear. This is a situation that Luo Xia has never encountered. He transforms into a devil and can easily make other superheroes or villains feel fear, regardless of whether they also have powerful powers, such as Spider-Gwen, Iron Man, Green Demon, Lizard Man. It won't take a whole day to burn you to ashes, Luo Xia sneered contemptuously. He slowly walked towards Captain America. You really should retire. Superheroes in World War II can't keep up with the times. For example, Iron Man has his wisdom and battle clothes, Spider-Woman has reaction speed and spider silk, but you only have that shield. The dragon spell was activated again, and Captain America was blown away and stopped when he hit the bulletproof glass of the counter. His head hit the solid bulletproof glass, and his head was covered with blood. Captain America climbed up again, but this time it was even more difficult. He did not give up at all. His face was covered in blood with a pair of determined eyes. He stared at the devil. Director Nick's words made sense. After all, Captain America had just awakened from 70 years of freezing, and his body had not yet recovered to its peak state. Although even if Captain America was in his strongest state, he could not beat the devil. Captain America could only watch his shield float up out of thin air and fly towards the devil. Does the devil have the ability to control objects? Luo Xia grabbed the edge of the shield with one hand, and fiddled with it for a while before putting his left-hand glove in. Luo Xia bent his fingers and knocked hard on the front of the shield. Except for a small sound, he could not feel any rebound. The power was indeed absorbed. Vibranium shield. Not bad. Not bad. Luo Xia was very satisfied. He looked at Captain America and said, I can't call you Captain America anymore. You can only be Captain Rogers. Because I have confiscated the shield. Captain America, who had just climbed up, had not yet stood firmly. After hearing this, he stumbled and spit out a mouthful of blood. Luo Xia put the shield in front of his chest, his face full of solemnity and dignity. I am Captain America. But the seriousness on his face did not break for a second. The next moment, Luo Xia was curiously studying the shield, as if he had got an interesting toy. Shield spin. Luo Xia threw the shield, and the shield hit the wall and bounced onto the bulletproof glass, but it did not return to Luo Xia's hand in the end, but fell to the ground. The survivors hiding in the corner of the lobby were secretly watching, and even the female teller behind the counter stretched out her head to peek. Ahem. Second spin. Luo Xia stretched out his hand, and he used the power of the chicken spell to take the shield back into his hand. Shield attack. Luo Xia slammed the shield against the floor, and the marble floor shattered instantly. The shield bounced to the corner of the wall, and fell to the side after a few ricochets. Captain America. Captain Rogers, is there any trick to using this shield? Luo Xia asked seriously after taking back the shield. For example, the angle and force of the flying out. Captain America spit out blood again. He took a deep breath, clenched his fist and rushed towards Luo Xia. Luo Xia raised his shield and nodded. He said seriously, I want to learn from your courage, but I also have to be wary of your stupidity. If you lie down obediently, you won't get beaten. Captain America ignored his ridicule and bravely punched. Luo Xia deliberately dodged. On your left. Captain America's fist was easily blocked by Luo Xia with his shield. Luo Xia dodged behind Captain America and kicked him on his buttocks. Captain America, who was unstable, fell straight to the ground. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Turning Stillness into Movement. Get up, come on, Captain Rogers, aren't you going to fight me until tomorrow? Luo Xia held a shield and moved around Captain America in small jumps, like Bruce Lee. Of course, he was not preparing to attack. His purpose was only to provoke. Captain America was too seriously injured and couldn't get up for a while. That's the good thing about old people, they can fall to the ground and sleep at any time. Luo Xia sighed. After hearing this, Captain America raised his head, and with extraordinary perseverance, he got up again. He was trembling all over, still clenching his fists, and rushed towards Luo Xia again. Luo Xia raised his shield to knock Captain America away, and then waved his hand and hit Captain America's face hard with an upper punch. Captain America flew sideways, and this time he couldn't get up for a while. Luo Xia kept his pose after the ko. He turned his back to Captain America and said calmly, if you didn't surprise me, a shield wouldn't be enough. Suddenly, a voice from the system interrupted him. Detected superhero Captain America. Rat spell has been unsealed, and can be upgraded with villain value. Try to make Captain America feel negative. More surprises are waiting for you to explore. Luo Xia thought that the suddenly appearing Captain America could unseal a spell for him. Although Captain America's strength is not strong, he is still the captain of the Avengers after all, one of Marvel's absolute protagonists. But Luo Xia didn't expect that Captain America would unseal the rat spell. The rat spell represents the power of life, which can give life to inanimate objects and give objects the abilities set. Although it cannot revive the dead, it can give life to statues of humans and gods and also give them the divine power they are said to have. The power limit of the rat spell is extremely high. If used properly, a rat spell is enough to change the situation of the battle. Before the rat spell was unsealed, Luo Xia had many expectations and prospects for the rat spell. He had a very interesting plan: acquire a comic team, let the artist create characters according to Luo Xia's ideas, and publish them on the shelves, and finally contact the model or toy manufacturers to make the characters' hands. Character 1, she has the ability to fly, and the speed is very fast, so fast that she can easily catch up with Spider-Gwen, or easily avoid Spider-Gwen's spider silk, and her strength is very strong, far exceeding Spider-Gwen. Character 2, there is a strong magnetic field around him, which can shield all signals, and will affect the work of the circuit, and will absorb metal, such as the steel armor. Character 3, his body is made of rubber, and any lightning attack is ineffective. If Luo Xia takes these dolls with the ability to restrain superheroes and uses the rat spell, what interesting things will happen. Of course, these are just Luo Xia's simple ideas. In addition, he has many ways to find fun. Luo Xia turned on the system, and the fluorescent blue 3D interface appeared. Sure enough, the badge of the rat spell had been lit up. Rat Talisman LV1. gives life to inanimate objects and gives them 40% of the energy in the original setting. The target given life will execute your orders. The total energy given to all targets by the rat talisman will not exceed the energy possessed by the dragon talisman. Reading this introduction, Luo Xia came to the first conclusion that he could use the rat talisman to give life to multiple targets at the same time. Luo Xia opened the talisman upgrade. Rat talisman LV1. Upgrade to LV2 requires 30,000 villain value, giving the target 45% of the energy in the original setting. The previous dragon talisman required 10,000 villain value to upgrade from LV1 to LV2. Now Luo Xia has determined that the more talismans are opened later, the more villain value will be required to upgrade. This is really a sad conclusion. Now he has opened 3 talismans, and there are still 9 talismans in the unsealed state. The third talisman requires 30,000 villain points to upgrade. In this way, the number of villain points required to upgrade the last talisman must be measured in units of 100,000. He opened his personal panel. Number of villain points, 70,927. Rabbit talisman LV8. The villain point required to upgrade to LV11 is 16,500. Dragon talisman LV7. The villain point required to upgrade to LV11 is 225,000. Rat talisman LV1. The villain point required to upgrade to LV11 is 525,000. Luo Xia could hardly imagine how much villain point would be needed to upgrade all 12 talismans to L11. Luo Xia, who was a little melancholy, spent 16,500 villain points to upgrade the rabbit talisman to LV11, which also made his maximum speed reach 5 times the speed of sound. This was his first talisman that was upgraded to LV11. The system once explained that if all 12 talismans were upgraded to LV11, all talismans could be upgraded to LV12. After the talismans reached full level, their power would bring a qualitative leap, presumably. Then he could be truly unscrupulous in the Marvel world. But he knew that he had to work harder, collect more villain points, and go faster and further on the road of the devil. The traditional way to collect villain points was to wander the streets, and about 10,000 villain points could be collected in one night. If you were lucky enough to meet a superhero or criminal villain, this number could be doubled or multiplied several times. But Luo Xia still felt that this traditional way of collecting villain points was too slow. He had to change and find a faster way to collect. Coincidentally, he already had some ideas. Of course, when seeking change, tradition cannot be abandoned. Only when tradition and change go hand in hand can one achieve the freedom of villain points as soon as possible. Okay, Captain Rogers, the goddess of luck has not forgotten you. You saved your life. Luo Xia still had to find a place to slowly study the rat spell, and had no time to play with Captain America. Luo Xia glanced over and suddenly saw a little boy in the crowd squatting in the corner, holding a doll on his hand. Luo Xia walked towards the crowd, and this move instantly made the quiet crowd riotous. Some people were trembling and praying, and some were squeezing in like crazy. Luo Xia frowned slightly at the chaotic crowd. He kicked a few people away before coming to the boy. The boy was holding a panda toy, which looked like a kung fu panda doll. Next to the boy, a sexy lady was trembling and hugging him. She seemed to have seen the devil's target while kneeling on the ground. She shed tears of fear. "No, don't. Give it to me." Luo Xia pointed to the kung fu panda in the boy's hand. The boy didn't say anything, but just hugged the doll in his arms tightly. The lady next to him was already scared and her brain was completely shut down, without any movement. Suddenly, Luo Xia dodged Captain America's fist and pushed out his shield to knock Captain America down. Captain America watched Luo Xia walk towards the crowd and thought he would massacre the hostages. At the critical moment, he burst out his last strength, but it still didn't work. He didn't even look at Captain America during the whole process. Luo Xia smiled at the little boy and said, "Give it to me." The little boy was stunned for a few seconds, and fearfully handed the Kung Fu Panda doll in his hand to Luo Xia. Luo Xia picked up the doll and tossed it. The power of the rat spell was activated by him. He could feel the endless vitality surging from the cloth doll. "Go, ho!" Luo Xia threw the Kung Fu Panda doll. A faint light flashed, and something happened that shocked everyone. The doll that was less than half a meter tall actually grew rapidly until it became a panda that was nearly 2 meters tall. The little boy was also stunned, often on the way to escape fate. You will unexpectedly meet it. Kung Fu Panda Po closed his eyes and stood with his hands behind his back. Of course, the two hands behind his back could not be held together. A bow flew out and smashed on the floor, dazzling. Thanks to the bookmaker Little Monster 3 once again 1000-point building settlement. Chapter 56 Dinner, Manhattan, Parker Street. Stacy's family and Rachel were having dinner, and the evening news was playing on TV. At 3:47 this afternoon, a robbery occurred at the Brooklyn branch of Morgan Bank, killing 17 bank employees and customers, and a large amount of cash in the vault was burned. The main culprit was determined to be a demon. After causing damage, he also took away $400,000 in cash. After the police arrived, they exchanged fire with the demon, and 5 police officers died and 7 police officers were injured. According to the survivors, the one who finally stopped the demon from continuing to commit crimes was Captain America, Steve Rogers, who had disappeared for 70 years. He fought fiercely with the demon with a shield, and with his strong will, he drove the demon away and protected the personal and property safety of the citizens. Captain America. It's Captain America. I've seen the video on Twitter. Gwen's brother Howard was very excited. He pointed at the beautiful female host on TV and said, "But she's lying." In the video, Captain America was beaten up by a panda. If the police hadn't come, he would have been finished. No ordinary panda can't beat Captain America. That's Kung Fu Panda. Angus, the youngest brother, emphasized. He is also a fan of Kung Fu Panda, and there are several peripheral dolls on the bed in the room. No, Kung Fu Panda is no match for Captain America. One is a cartoon character, and the other is a war hero. Howard retorted, Kung Fu Panda can beat Captain America because the devil has beaten him half to death before. Kung Fu Panda is the strongest. Angus said dissatisfiedly, the devil plus Captain America can't beat Kung Fu Panda. The two brothers had a dispute, and Howard found it difficult to explain to Angus that Kung Fu Panda is just a plush toy, while the devil is omnipotent. Angus also couldn't understand that there are creatures in the world that are more powerful than Kung Fu Panda. And they are pandas who know Kung Fu martial arts. The devil is the strongest. It's Kung Fu Panda, the devil. When they heard the news, everyone except Luo Xia stopped what they were doing. George and Gwen looked at the TV screen without saying a word. Mrs. Stacy looked a little sad. She was a housewife who lived in peace with the world. She was kind and put down her knife and fork to pray. Luo Xia saw this scene, put down his fork, put his hands on his chest and chanted, "Blessings and infinite heaven, Amitabha, Amen, together." "What are you doing?" Gwen asked curiously. She could only tell that Luo Xia was speaking Chinese, but she couldn't understand the meaning of those syllables. "Well, this is our Eastern prayer." Luo Xia looked at her and said seriously, "I am saving the souls of those who died because of the devil." Gwen looked at him deeply, as if she had a lot of words buried in her heart that she didn't say. Luo Xia continued to cut the steak after praying. Mrs. Stacy's cooking skills were very good, and the material she chose was the best tenderloin, which was soft and tender. But after this comparison, his prayer was a little half-hearted, and it was better to be serious and focused when tasting steak. "Luo, do you want some vegetable salad?" Mrs. Stacy asked. She seemed to like Luo Xia's kindness just now. "If possible, please," Luo Xia said with a smile. Mrs. Stacy shook her head. For a cook, eating the food she made is the best praise. George, sitting in the main seat, said nothing, chewing his food with a stiff expression. As the highest officer of the New York City Police, he knew all the details of this bank robbery. The police were defeated by the devil again, and he didn't know how many times he had to clean up the mess left by the devil. If we count the fights, robberies, and destruction of public property on the streets, there are already hundreds of crimes that the devil participated in or committed, but the devil is still at large. "Dad," Gwen hesitated. "I'm fine." George put down his knife and fork and said, "For my work, this setback is nothing." Mrs. Stacy nodded and said, "The devil, Spider-Woman and others have messed up New York, and the police's work has become heavy. But I think you should relax, George. These superpowered people are not something the police can deal with, but this cannot be an excuse for the police. Our mission is to protect citizens and maintain order, no matter who the enemy is. George smiled reluctantly. Citizens will not consider these. They will only think that they are right to use taxes to support a group of useless gluttons. Spider-Woman on the side buried her head and stared at the plate awkwardly, while the devil looked up, but he often nodded, frowned, and showed an empathetic expression. The two instigators reacted in completely opposite ways, but they tacitly did not participate in the discussion at the table. Luo Xia, what are you doing today? Gwen turned her head and asked casually. I haven't seen you all day, and you didn't contact me. Sorry, I was playing games and watching anime at home. There is an anime called Spider-Woman vs. Devil serialized on the internet. Luo Xia answered casually. Did you see the plot of the devil robbing the bank? Spider-Woman should be punishing him severely, right? Gwen cut a broccoli in half and put one half on Luo Xia's plate with a fork. The plot of the anime is indeed taken from real cases, such as Brooklyn vs. Lizardman, and the plot of bank robbery will be drawn later, right? Luo Xia said uncertainly, but Spider-Woman will not punish the devil. Why? Gwen asked curiously. Because Spider-Woman is not enhanced in the comics? She can't beat the devil? Because it is a love-style comic, and there won't be such an interesting plot now. Luo Xia said seriously. Gwen was stunned. After a moment, she blushed and said, the devil and Spider-Woman, one is a villain and the other is a superhero. How can they fall in love? Isn't this very common? Luo Xia said. In many literary works and film and television dramas, the male and female protagonists are from different camps or even hostile camps, but they come together under the power of love, experience all kinds of hardships together, love and kill each other together, which is quite interesting. I also rewarded the creator of the comic. No, Spider-Woman must hate the devil, Gwen vowed, even in the comics. After dinner, Gwen sent Luo Xia downstairs, and the two strolled on the cobblestone path in the greenery. You also have the attributes of a otaku? I just found out tonight. Gwen looked at Luo Xia and said, didn't you go out with friends on the weekend? Billiards, board games, parties, etc. No, I don't have any friends. Luo Xia looked at Gwen with a smile. Only you. We are not friends, Gwen said, holding Luo Xia's neck, and the two kissed and separated after dozens of seconds. The two separated, and Gwen made a phone call gesture. Call me when you get home. That should be a little late, Luo Xia said. I still have some things to deal with tonight. Gwen didn't care. I'll wait. Call me. P.S. I have created a group, and interested book friends can join it. Discuss the plot and let me copy. Borrow something. Chapter 57 Rooftop. Late at night, the rooftop of Stark Industries was covered with dark clouds, and the night wind was howling. Natasha crossed her hands and rubbed her shoulders. She frowned and looked at the empty rooftop. It was obvious that she was in a bad mood. No matter who was blown on the rooftop for a few minutes late at night, they would not be in a good mood. She took out her mobile phone, clicked on the email, and confirmed again that the agreed location was the rooftop of Stark Industries, and the time was 10:30 tonight. Well, there was no mistake in the information. A day ago, Natasha, who had just joined the company, received a job transfer. The position after the transfer was the assistant to the chairman. Well, a position that suited her heart very much. After all, as an agent, her purpose of joining Stark was to get close to Tony Stark. Recently, another superhero appeared in New York: Iron Man. He was very popular, high enough to be compared with Spider-Woman and the Devil. The work of S.H.I.E.L.D. is to deal with supernatural phenomena and advanced technologies that may threaten the safety of the public. As soon as Iron Man appeared, they noticed it. S.H.I.E.L.D. immediately started to investigate, and Agent Phil Coulson, Director Nick's right-hand man, was in charge of the investigation. Coulson's work progress was slow, but he soon waited for a turning point: the tragedy of the Midtown Institute of Technology graduation party. After hearing that Iron Man participated in the battle that night, Coulson immediately started to investigate, and his eyes fell accurately on Harry, the only survivor in the venue. In the end, it showed that his efforts were not in vain. He got valuable information from Harry. Stark Industries was mentioned in the conversation between the Devil and Iron Man, although Coulson could sense that Harry deliberately revealed this information to him. After S.H.I.E.L.D. monitored the Stark Industrial Building and Tony Stark's beach house, it confirmed the authenticity of Harry's words. S.H.I.E.L.D. locked Iron Man's identity, but the result was shocking. The superhero turned out to be billionaire Tony Stark himself. S.H.I.E.L.D. quickly found Tony's flaws with his information. They made a detailed plan and decided to let the sexy and beautiful Agent Black Widow approach Tony and gain his trust. It turned out that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plan was perfect. After meeting Natasha, Tony, the playboy, used his power to transfer Natasha to his side. Natasha had no objection to this. After all, as Tony's assistant, she could do a better job. But what she didn't expect was that the main task assigned to her by Tony was to connect with a mysterious guest. Her work content in the past 2 days was just sending and receiving emails. In this process, Natasha once investigated the account from which the other party sent emails, hoping to gain some information. As an agent, she is proficient in hacking technology, but strangely, she could not find any information about that account. And the information fed back by S.H.I.E.L.D.'s technical department was consistent with her conclusion. That was an account that should not exist. But now the other party is sending her emails through this account that shouldn't exist. What's even more strange is that Tony seems to have some secret deal with this mysterious person. Tonight, she took a heavy box and came to the rooftop to hand it over to the other party. Cautious Natasha did not try to open the box to see what was inside. This box may have a self-protection function. Tony Stark is known as a genius and will never make these low-level mistakes. Moreover, her mission is to lurk around Tony. The information about the mysterious person is just a windfall for her. "Sir, I'm here." Natasha took out her mobile phone, wrote an email and sent it. There was only 1 minute left in the agreed time, but she hadn't seen the other party yet. There was a helipad on the rooftop, but at a glance, there was no shadow of a helicopter. The mobile phone screen lit up and an email came in. Natasha opened the email, and there was only one sentence on it. "On your left." Natasha turned to the left in confusion. Suddenly she stopped. A few meters to her left, a figure slowly appeared. As an agent, being approached by someone without being noticed is enough to be fatal. Suddenly, Natasha pulled out a pistol from somewhere and aimed at the other person. She saw the other person's face clearly. It was a demon mask. As an agent of SHIELD, she was very familiar with this outfit. The demon slowly walked towards her, seemingly not seeing the pistol she raised. A Stark Industries employee brought a pistol to work, Luo Xia said curiously. "The next time I see Mr. Stark, I will definitely complain to him." Natasha was still dressed as an employee. The shirt and suit pants showed her figure. Her long burgundy hair fluttered in the wind, and the air was filled with her hair fragrance. Luo Xia glanced at Natasha. As expected of Black Widow, she had an outstanding figure and appearance. Natasha was about to drop her jaw. At this time, Tony's mysterious guest turned out to be a demon. Aren't Iron Man and the Devil hostile? Are they actually in contact and trading in secret? Soon Natasha put away the pistol. She knew that guns would not work against the Devil. Captain Rogers, who just woke up this afternoon, was beaten up by the Devil, and Director Nick was also seriously injured and hospitalized by the Devil. These are all lessons learned from the past, and she doesn't want to follow in his footsteps. "Sorry, sir." Natasha bowed slightly. "My reaction was a bit extreme. I just recognized your identity. I was too excited." Luo Xia waved her hand. "Where is the gift Mr. Stark gave me?" "It's all here." She turned and pointed to the heavy box and said. Natasha's eyes flashed. What gift could Tony give to the Devil? His latest weapon? But the Devil never seems to use weapons. But this is important information, and she decided to report it to SHIELD tonight. Luo Xia stepped forward and opened the box. Inside were models of Godzilla and Pikachu, made of titanium material. The price was not cheap, but for the billionaire Tony, it was not even a drop in the bucket. Natasha was stunned when she saw the things in the box. What was that? A model? Why did that thing look like Pikachu? "Sir, what are these?" she asked tentatively. "As you can see, models," the demon said with a smile. The demon's smile was creepy, especially on this empty rooftop. Models? Natasha was still wondering what the demon wanted these models for, and suddenly a light bulb went off in her head, and she thought of the incident this afternoon when Captain America was beaten up by a Kung Fu Panda. The battle report in S.H.I.E.L.D. showed that the demon snatched a Kung Fu Panda from a little boy, and then the demon turned the doll into a real Kung Fu Panda. A plush toy can beat Captain America in the hands of the demon. So what about these metal models made by the genius Tony himself? Natasha recognized another model. The monster Godzilla. Does the demon want to destroy New York? Thanks to the book friend, Little Monster is 3 years old for the 7,000 coin settlement for building a building. Thanks to the book friend, Mingsu for the 3,000 coin reward. Thanks to the book friend, Just Call Me Sad Brother for the 1,500 coin reward. Thanks to the book friend, Little Barrow Biscuit for the 100 point reward. Thanks to the book friend, Hell Joke for the 100 point reward. Thanks to the book friend 1611201345299906 for the 500 coin reward. And thanks to the book friend Golden Voice for the 100 coin reward. Chapter 58 Agent Hill. The demon closed the box, and Natasha finally recovered from her surprise. Mr. Stark didn't do anything to my toys, did he? The demon asked casually, such as trackers, locators, etc. Natasha smiled charmingly. Sorry, Mr. Demon, my job is just to transport this box and hand it over to you. I don't know anything else. Tony naturally didn't dare to do anything to these two models. Before, Luo Xia gave him the blueprint of the Iron Spider suit, and he copied a lot of technology from that blueprint to improve his suit. So in Tony's view, Luo Xia is also a technical expert, and a violent technical expert. He naturally won't play some tricks and joke with his life. Natasha regretted it a little. If she knew in advance that the mysterious guest who contacted her was a demon, she would definitely install a tracker in the box, and maybe there would be unexpected gains. Even if the demon found out, he could frame Tony and provoke the relationship between Iron Man and the demon. After all, if Iron Man and the demon joined forces and joined the evil camp, it would definitely be a disaster. The Stark family are all geniuses. Howard Stark participated in the research of the atomic bomb. Who knows if Tony Stark will develop some high lethal weapons for the devil. This is definitely a situation that S.H.I.E.L.D. does not want to see. Suddenly, Natasha stopped thinking. The devil did not leave after getting the box with the model, but slowly approached her. Natasha could not help but take a step back, and then immediately stopped. Even though she was an agent walking on the edge of the blade, she would feel a little afraid when facing the terrifying devil. Of course, with her perseverance, she could overcome this fear. She had to stop. If the devil wanted to attack, it would be useless even if she retreated to the edge of the roof. Mr. Devil, are you also a fan of action figures? Natasha decided to deal with the devil, but it's too extravagant to make models with precious metals. No, my hobby is to bring fear and pain to people, Luo Xia said with a smile. These will be small toys to help me have fun. Mr. Devil, what is your relationship with my boss Mr. Stark? Natasha continued to ask. Friends? It's hard to imagine that the devil would be friends with a billionaire. Of course, I like to make friends, Luo Xia vowed, whether it's a little spider hanging around the streets with a mask, or a billionaire with a flawed personality. Of course, Mr. Stark behaves very well in front of me, and I also want to make friends with some special professions, such as agents, or spies. That's a pity. The CIA and the FBI probably don't want to make friends with Mr. Devil. Natasha's answer was flawless, but her surprise was even greater. Is the devil testing her, or does he already know that she is from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Natasha's expression was relaxed, but her mind was highly focused, and her nervousness was radiating wildly. Because Luo Xia was very close to her, less than 1 meter away. Miss Natasha, you seem to be very nervous. Luo Xia stretched out his hand and put it on her shoulder. Relax. Natasha felt a warm palm covering her cold body, but this only magnified her fear. Because she knew that the devil used this hand to release powerful fire attacks, she turned her head somewhat stiffly to look at the devil, and the devil mask actually showed a smile. Natasha had seen the devil's terrifying smile many times, but those were all pictures. The first time she saw the devil's smile in person shocked her, but Natasha always felt that the devil's smile now was not so scary, and most of it was malicious. "Sir." Natasha was about to say something but stopped. Luo Xia suddenly withdrew his hand because he had already got what he wanted. The system just made a broadcast reminder, monitoring superhero Black Widow. Snake amulet has been unsealed and can be upgraded with villain value. Try to make Black Widow feel negative emotions. More surprises are waiting for your exploration. Today, after Captain America, Black Widow also gave him a surprise and helped him to unseal the fourth spell. Natasha glanced sideways, and the devil passed by her. "Good night," a voice came from behind. Natasha turned around. Her mind was highly concentrated, but she suddenly couldn't see the devil, including the box. "Good night," she whispered to the night. A few seconds later, Natasha was sure that the devil had left. Her slightly panicked face instantly returned to normal, and there was even a hint of coldness in her calm expression. She turned and went down the rooftop, and took out her mobile phone in the blind spot of the surveillance in the passage. Agent Hill. This afternoon, Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., was seriously injured and hospitalized in the battle with the devil at Morgan Bank. His work was temporarily handled by Agent Hill. "I just saw the devil." Tony Stark handed over two metal monster models to the devil. Natasha looked around carefully. They seemed to be in touch secretly. In the West District of S.H.I.E.L.D., in order to ensure safety and secrecy, the central control room was placed dozens of meters underground. The whole space was filled with the sound of high-speed keyboard tapping, the hissing sound of printers, and the click of mechanical cipher machines translating secret messages. This environment is frustrating, but if you stay here for a long time, you will slowly adapt to it. Hill is like this. She can easily fall asleep in these noises. Hill stood in front of a huge holographic screen. On the screen was a 3D virtual Earth. As she waved her hand gently, the Earth would quickly turn to the position she wanted to see. Red dots often flashed on the Earth, which was the alarm of S.H.I.E.L.D. There might be a terrorist fight there, or a superpowered person monitored by S.H.I.E.L.D. was committing a crime. These things needed to be handled by S.H.I.E.L.D. The light blue fluorescence enveloped her, as if a soft filter was added. Her face was simple and moving under the filter. Hill was wearing a tight-fitting uniform of S.H.I.E.L.D., and her figure was very tall. Her smooth long hair was tied at the back of her head, revealing her snow-white neck. The zipper was on her chest, and a little black lining could be seen, so the snow-white extended to the front. Even in the station, Hill had a pistol hanging on her thigh, which made her look very cautious. Her expression was serious. As the acting commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., she would receive a lot of information and deal with several emergencies every hour. At this moment, after hearing the report of Agent Black Widow about the devil, her expression became even heavier. "We will have a battle with the devil in the end." After she sighed, she pressed the headset to cut off the communication. At this time, the Earth model on the holographic screen was reduced and moved to the corner, replaced by a face wearing a devil mask. Hill turned to a staff member. "Until now, what is the probability of success in the rehearsal of the battle plan to capture the demon?" The staff member pushed his glasses and typed on the keyboard with both hands. "Sir, the supercomputer has rehearsed and improved the battle plan to capture the demon tens of thousands of times, but now the success rate of the latest battle plan is only 17.62%. "Why?" Hill's expression was serious. "Lack of bait," the staff member replied. "If it is in an open outdoor area, the probability of success of the battle plan is only 0.74%, but if the battlefield is in a room where S.H.I.E.L.D. has arranged personnel and equipment in advance, the probability of success can reach 41.12%. But we know very little about demons. We don't know what the bait that can attract demons will be, and we can't predict when the demon will go to a certain solid structure indoors." Hill turned around and looked at the demon on the screen without saying a word. Chapter 59, Trespasser. The power of the snake charm is invisibility and space. Snake charm LV1 can make the holder invisible, and is also effective for objects. Snake charm LV1 upgrade to LV2 requires 50,000 villain value, enhance your invisibility ability, and after reaching deep invisibility, You can move in space for a short distance. The maximum distance of space displacement is 50 meters. If you move multiple times in a short time, this ability will enter a short cooling time. The power of the snake charm can be enhanced through system upgrades. After the upgrade, the maximum distance of space movement provided by the snake charm will continue to increase, and the number of times it can be used in a short period of time will also increase. In addition, after the snake charm is upgraded to a certain level, it can also bring the following functions: hide your own breath, such as breathing and body temperature, and hide all energy fluctuations in your body. Infinitely reduce your own signal characteristics, making it difficult for radar or other detection methods to detect, identify, track and attack, so as to achieve the purpose of anti-radar, anti-infrared, anti-electronic, and anti-sound wave detection, thereby achieving a true stealth effect. You can select a biological target to give it the ability to be invisible and move in space, but the maximum distance of space movement will be reduced. You can hide all your information and traces in the current dimension, including fate, time, cause and effect. When the snake spell is upgraded to LV12, you will gain the ability of unselectable for a short period of time, unable to be attacked, unable to be selected, and all effects acting on you will disappear, and you will not be bound or interfered by any energy or rules. Of course, this powerful ability requires the dragon spell to accumulate energy for the snake spell, so it will enter a cool down time after each use. Now Luo Xia's personal panel has also been updated. Number of villain values, 60,727. Rabbit spell LV11, cannot be upgraded. Dragon spell LV7, the villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 225,000. Rat spell LV1. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 525,000. Snake spell LV1. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 725,000. Stark Industrial Park, District 16. In the center of the huge room is a glass ball, which looks like a slightly flattened basketball. Inside the glass ball are countless blue arcs that are very beautiful from the outside. They have a huge amount of energy, but they are very stable. The arc reactor, or the arc reactor, is the core of Stark Industries' new clean energy project. If this thing is released, it will definitely cause a sensation in the scientific community and attract the attention of the world. In front of the arc reactor, there are two people. One of them is obese. He is Obadiah Stane, one of the founders of Stark Industries and the current major shareholder. Sir, you have brought the technology we are researching into a dead end again. My team has worked very hard. The man in white work clothes lowered his head. But I'm sorry, the project has been declared a failure. The technology to power this suit of armor may not be realized yet. Doctor, the technology is right here. Stark Industries has manufactured the finished product and it is placed at the door of your office. You can see it every day when you go to work. Stanley turned and pointed at the huge arc reactor. Your task is just to shrink it. I have invested tens of millions of dollars in your team. The doctor's glasses slipped to the bridge of his nose and he had no time to pay attention. He said with sweat all over his forehead, "I'm sorry, sir, we can't do it, and no one in the world can do it, except Tony Stark did it." Stanley pointed at him and drawled, "In the cave, he made a miniature arc reactor with a pile of scrap copper and iron." "I'm sorry, sir, I'm not Tony Stark. He is the world's top scientist. The arc reactor technology was also founded by him. No one can surpass him in this field, except Tony Stark. No one can build a miniature and stable arc reactor." Stanley's face was livid. He held the iron railing tightly with both hands. I don't know what he was thinking. Luo Xia drove the old Ford car back home. On the way, the car broke down and couldn't start. Fortunately, the horse spell had the power to repair it. Otherwise he would have to spend half the night on the road without knowing the car repair technology. This episode made Luo Xia think of changing cars. Although the speed of the Devil's Flight was fast enough and the combat power was strong enough, he didn't need to get a Batmobile like Batman. But Luo Xia needed it. He had this need for transportation, and he would occasionally send Gwen home. Find a way to extort a supercar from Tony? Or exchange a car from the system mall? If you use the villain value to exchange in the system mall, the legalization of the car is also a bit troublesome. At least Luo Xia's identity does not have this kind of social energy. The price is different, and the cars sold in the system mall are also different. Not only ordinary luxury sports cars are sold, but also modified cars loaded with weapons, and mecha cars equipped with artificial intelligence systems that can transform and fight independently. Of course, Luo Xia does not need an Autobot to increase his combat power. He only needs a cool sports car. While thinking about it, Luo Xia drove the car into the garage, opened the door with the key, and stopped when he entered the room. It is illegal to enter someone else's house without permission. Of course, I can understand it when I think of your identity as a criminal. Luo Xia turned on the light. Right? Spider-Woman. Luo Xia looked up, and Spider-Gwen was indeed sticking to the ceiling and staring at him. How did you find me? Gwen landed from the ceiling, landed lightly, and landed on the floor without making any sound. Luo Xia's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. It seems that with the passage of time, the integration of spider genes in Gwen has become more perfect. Gwen's power has become stronger, and her control ability has become stronger. Gwen continued to inquire, you didn't turn on the lights, and you didn't even look in this direction. I put a hair on the shoe rack, and when I opened the door, I found that the hair was gone. The security around here is not so bad that someone dares to break into the house and rob. Luo Xia made up nonsense. The real reason was that he felt the energy in Gwen's body. After the Dragon Talisman was upgraded to LV7, Luo Xia's perception of energy bodies became stronger. The energy bodies in the bodies of each superpower user are different. He has been in contact with Gwen for a lot of time, so he can naturally tell them apart. But I came in through the window. Did we get the wrong script? Luo Xia walked to the sofa and sat down. He looked at Gwen dressed as Spider-Woman and said, how can a criminal who illegally invaded someone else's territory question the owner? Shouldn't I be the one to accuse you of your crime? Let me reiterate, I'm not a criminal, I'm a superhero. Gwen sat down opposite Luo Xia very familiarly. Citizens sing praises to my justice on the internet every day. I suggest you go online and check it out more. Thanks to book friend Little Monster 3 years old for the 4,000 points for building a building. Thanks to book friend Quasar for the 5,000 points for the reward. Chapter 60 Kissing Miss Spider. I often surf the internet. Let me think about what Spider-Woman has done recently. Luo Xia pretended to think. By the way, Spider-Woman participated in the Midtown Tech tragedy and joined forces with the devil to launch a terrorist attack on the students. Fortunately, the righteous Iron Man arrived in time. I am also a student of Midtown Tech. It seems that I was lucky that night. Damn the Daily Bugle. Gwen held her forehead helplessly. The Daily Bugle is just an entertainment weekly. Can't you read the other mainstream media? At least they won't distort the facts. Of course. Luo Xia nodded. Many newspapers said that Iron Man gave you an Iron Spider suit. Why didn't you wear it when you went out? That wasn't given by Iron Man, Gwen emphasized. That's not important. What's important is that you now have a cool suit. It's definitely more classy than your tights. Luo Xia looked at Gwen. What's wrong with my uniform? Gwen said unhappily. I designed it myself. I think it's very stylish. Indeed, there's no other superhero with a hood in New York. But there are many gang members on the streets. Luo Xia was a little impatient. So what's the matter with you coming to see me tonight? If not, please leave my house. I have to call my girlfriend. Gwen was shocked, and she was glad that she had the habit of turning her phone on silent. Is it the girlfriend you mentioned last time? The daughter of the New York City Police Commissioner. Gwen pretended to be gossipy. She leaned on the sofa with her legs crossed, and her little feet in blue ballet shoes were hooked and shaking. Luo Xia looked at her expressionlessly, and Gwen pouted. Well, actually there's nothing. I just passed by here tonight and came to see you. You helped me a lot that night. Gwen didn't lie. She would explore Queens on the nights recently. The day after the tragedy at Midtown Institute of Technology, Peter Parker was acquitted by the police. Gwen heard from her father George that Osborn Group was involved in this incident, and the police had no reason to detain an innocent person. At least there was no evidence to prove that he had participated in terrorist attacks or committed other crimes. Gwen was worried that Peter, who had transformed into a spider beastman, would fall into madness again and threaten the safety of other people in Queens. After all, it was Gwen who stopped the devil and saved Peter when the devil wanted to kill him that night. If Peter did evil again, she would feel guilty for those who were hurt. Gwen even had an idea that Gwen didn't know how to face the devil the next time she saw him. This idea was very strange, because there was no doubt that she and the devil were in a hostile relationship. Fortunately, there was nothing unusual in the past few days, and she also stopped several crimes in Queens. "You can call your girlfriend. I promise I won't make a sound." Gwen made a zipper motion on her mouth with her hand. Luo Xia looked at her helplessly, and he could only make a phone call that would never be answered in front of Gwen. The call was connected until it was hung up after a busy tone. Luo Xia looked at Spider-Gwen sitting on the sofa in front of her with a blank expression. "Maybe she has fallen asleep," Gwen said with a guilty conscience. "Girls go to bed early. She definitely didn't mean to ignore your call. Don't be discouraged. Men also go to bed early. Do you want to sleep together?" Luo Xia suddenly approached Spider-Gwen. Gwen nodded blankly, then shook her head quickly. At the moment when she looked at Luo Xia, she suddenly found herself becoming very nervous. "Then please leave my house quickly." If my girlfriend knew that I was chatting with a woman in the same room until late at night, she would probably be unhappy. Luo Xia got up and walked towards the bathroom. "It's still early now. I think we can talk," Gwen called Luo Xia. "What do you want to talk to me about?" Luo Xia turned around slowly, and he looked at Gwen indifferently. "We don't seem to have anything to talk about. This is only our second meeting. If someone else dared to sneak into his house and keep pestering him, Luo Xia would definitely make him pay the price. But now that person is Gwen. Luo Xia doesn't want Gwen to know that he is a demon. At least not now. "You can go out through the door when you go out, but don't let anyone see you. Remember to close the door," Luo Xia said and turned to the bathroom. Squeak! Gwen shot out a spider silk, which broke through the air at a high speed and finally stuck to Luo Xia's back. "Why didn't you dodge it?" Gwen said subconsciously. She was a little surprised. In Gwen's opinion, Luo Xia could easily dodge the spider silk she shot, not to mention Gwen's suspicion of Luo Xia. She had a brief fight with Luo Xia that night, and Luo Xia's swift speed made her remember it deeply. Luo Xia is full of mysteries. Gwen knows that Luo Xia has a secret, so she wants to try to solve this secret tonight. Tonight she also wanted to test Luo Xia, to test whether Luo Xia had any connection with the devil. Maybe it was because the devil had caused destruction in Morgan Bank again, and Gwen wanted to find out the devil's true identity. Or Gwen wanted to rule out the suspicion that Luo Xia was a devil. In her heart, she didn't want Luo Xia to have any connection with the devil. Spider-Woman was linked to the criminal because of the police's misunderstanding, but the devil was a criminal, which was a fact that everyone would recognize. The devil was synonymous with killing and terror. Many people died in his hands, and some were even tortured. He once murdered 3 senior executives of the Osborne Group who had no criminal record. Of course, he would not show mercy to criminals. From the terrified faces of those dead, one could still feel the fear they felt when they were alive. Gwen firmly believed in her heart that Luo Xia could not have any connection with the criminal. Luo Xia had a cold and violent side, but Gwen felt more of his warmth and kindness. "Do you think it's interesting?" Luo Xia turned around and said coldly. He walked towards Gwen, and the spider silk stuck to his back was also dragged away. Gwen wanted to step back when she saw Luo Xia's cold face, but she was sitting on the sofa and she had no way to retreat. Luo Xia came in front of Gwen and leaned closer to her. Gwen could only lean back and her hands subconsciously blocked her chest, as if she was defending herself. Luo Xia supported himself on the sofa with both hands, and imprisoned Gwen in an extremely oppressive posture until Gwen's back and head were pressed against the sofa, and Luo Xia was less than 10 centimeters away from her. "Do you think it's funny?" Luo Xia repeated. "I'm sorry." Gwen felt a little guilty, and she smiled awkwardly. "I can clean up the spider silk, don't be angry." "Apologizing is useless, Miss Spider." Luo Xia's voice suddenly became calm again. and the coldness in his eyes disappeared. Gwen could not see a trace of anger in his eyes. Ms. Spider. Gwen felt that this name was too familiar, as if a devil was whispering in her ear. Miss Spider. At this moment, Gwen's mind was blank. Luo Xia lifted her hood until her nose, and before Gwen could react, Luo Xia had already kissed her lips. Chapter 61 Project Insight. Ms. Pepper, are you busy? Come over here, I need your help. After receiving a call from Tony, Potts came to the R&D room. After entering the password to enter the R&D room, Potts saw the assembled Iron Man Mark V behind the main console. The brand new red and yellow spray paint reflected a faint light under the light. Because Tony was still debugging and strengthening the mecha, the micro-missile built into the right arm of Mark V was exposed. Potts knew the power of that thing, and this one shot alone could blow up the entire R&D room. Tony? Potts called. Here. Tony came out from the back, holding a transparent cup in his hand, filled with green chlorophyll drink. You shouldn't put such dangerous things here, Potts said, pointing to the micro-missile. Don't worry, I'm Iron Man. These things are just my toys. Tony didn't care, and who would be stupid enough to be blown up by something they made? Potts frowned after hearing this. That day, Tony destroyed the terrorist base in his iron armor, and on the way back, he fought with 2 Air Force fighters. So when Potts heard the noise and opened the door, he saw a few clumsy mechanical arms helping Tony take off the iron armor full of bullet holes. So Potts knew the news that Tony was Iron Man a long time ago. Well, let's talk about why you called me here. Potts changed the subject helplessly. As Tony's assistant, Potts knew his boss very well, arrogant and stubborn. I want you to go to my office, hack into the main computer, and download all the recent shipping lists. Tony looked at Potts and said seriously, didn't Stark Industries stop its arms business? Potts asked doubtfully. You disbanded the equipment research department. But those weapons appeared in the hands of terrorists, Tony said excitedly. The terrorists used weapons that Stark Industries had banned from sale to defeat the government forces. Countless people died, and countless civilians lost their homes. Potts' face was full of surprise, and Tony said expressionlessly, it's Stanley, but I still need evidence. He handed Potts a chip the size of a USB flash drive, and Potts took it. This is a password chip. You can use it to unlock it. The cargo manifest may be in the administrative folder, or in the hidden folder. What will you do if I get the cargo manifest back? Potts interrupted him. Tell me the truth, Tony. I will convene a board of directors, remove Stanley from all positions in Stark Industries, and sue him. Tony looked at the iron armor and said, if they continue to trade secretly, I will stop them and destroy all weapons. Like last time? It was a miracle that you came back intact last time. Potts threw the password chip back on the table. If I did that, it would kill you. I should have died a long time ago. Tony put down the chlorophyll drink in his hand, but I survived for these beliefs. And maybe this is my mission. I have to do this, that's all. Then I resign. Potts turned around. Tony, I can do anything for you, but it definitely doesn't include letting you face the risk of death. Potts turned and left. Pepper, you have worked with me for many years. You were by my side when I was destroying and making money from the dead. Now, when I want to protect those who have suffered because of me, you are leaving me. Potts stopped where he was. Latitude 38 newtons 5333.78 longitude 77 s 338.91 SHIELD headquarters, Triskelion. The huge sightseeing elevator rose at a constant speed. Alexander Pierce, Minister of the World Security Council, stood in front of the glass with his hands in his pockets, looking at the shrinking scenery on the ground. His assistants, bodyguards and a group of followers stood close to the elevator door to make more space. The World Security Council is an international parliament whose members are from the political elites of many major countries in the world. Its main function is to supervise the actions of SHIELD, which shows the high position and power of Minister Pierce. The elevator began to slow down until it stopped at the top floor. The crowd separated a passage, and Pierce walked out of the elevator first, and his followers followed one after another. At the door of Pierce's office, SHIELD agent Jasper Sidwell had been waiting for a long time. Pierce waved his hand, and his assistant and bodyguard went to their respective positions. He pushed open the door of the office and entered. Sidwell followed him in and closed the door. "You should be in your position. The only person in SHIELD who needs to report to the Security Council is Nick Fury." Pierce walked to the desk and sat down. He leaned back in the chair, crossed his hands on his chest, and stared at Sidwell. Sidwell also walked straight past the desk, walked in front of Pierce and bowed his head and said, "Sir, Dr. Zola sent a message. His algorithm has been perfected, and the code has been implanted in 3 sky carriers. The InSight project is ready and can be implemented at any time." Pierce raised his hand to interrupt him. "It still needs the authorization of the other members of the Security Council to launch the sky carrier. With Nick Fury here, no one can guarantee that the plan can be carried out perfectly without accidents. Director Nick is a top agent. I'm afraid it will be difficult to kill him." Sidwell thought for a while and said, "No one can survive the hands of the Winter Soldier, and Nick Fury is no exception," Pierce said coldly. He looked up at Sidwell, who immediately said, "Then I'll go out first." The office returned to silence. Pierce walked to the French window with a cup of coffee and looked at the lake quietly. Under the water was the underground base of SHIELD, where 3 sky carriers were parked. He couldn't calm down for a long time, because he would soon realize his lifelong ideal. This feeling was really intoxicating. As the supervisor of SHIELD, Pierce was a close friend of SHIELD director Nick Fury. The two jointly planned the InSight project. The 3 sky carriers were synchronized with the satellites of the Target Positioning Network. Once they were in the sky, they would not land. The new engine would allow them to fly in suborbital flight. The sky carriers were equipped with long-range precision positioning weapons, which could eliminate 1,000 enemies in 1 minute. Terrorists and criminals did not need to show up, and satellites could read their DNA, so SHIELD could nip the threat in the bud. However, Pierce is also the leader of Hydra within SHIELD, and his plan is to carry out large-scale assassinations. The target is citizens who are identified as threatening to Hydra based on Arnim Zola's algorithm. The list is long: Nick Fury, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Natasha Romanoff, George Stacy, Peggy Carter, Harry Osborn. The number is in the millions. If all these people who are a threat to Hydra die, then the world will kneel at the feet of Hydra. "Good afternoon, sir." Suddenly a voice came from behind Pierce. "Thanks to the book Friend Little Monster 3 years old for the 7,000 point building settlement. Thank you." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Documents and Collapse of Defense. Pierce's body tensed up instantly. His expression froze. There was a third person in the office. When did he come in? Did he hear the conversation between him and Sidwell about Hydra's InSight project? Pierce turned slowly. His eyes fell on the back of the desk. In the seat where he just sat, there was another person sitting. It was a man in a black suit, lying on his back in the boss chair, his feet on the desk, holding a document high up, blocking his face. "Who are you?" Pierce pretended to be calm. Outside a remote town in New Mexico, an unknown hammer-shaped object fell from the sky. Its material does not belong to any element on Earth and has been confirmed to be an alien object. But no one can lift this hammer. The agents tried their best but could not move it back. They could only build a research institute around the hammer-shaped object to study its material, origin, and energy. Now SHIELD has summoned a large number of scientists in physics and chemistry to the research institute, but so far there has been no gain. A strong man of unknown identity rushed past the guards and approached the landing. He tried to lift the hammer, but failed in the end. After his failure, he became very emotional. This hammer is suspected to have the ability to affect the spirit of living things. We arrested the man at the scene. After investigation, we found that there were great doubts about his identity. There was no citizen information of his in any country, no social security and tax records, no education experience, and even no consumption records. It was as if he appeared out of thin air. These two paragraphs came from the SHIELD work report file on Pierce's desk. When Pierce looked down at the ground to calm down, Luo Xia picked up the file and browsed it. He knew that the mysterious hammer was Thor's hammer, and the man was naturally Thor Odinson. Thor was the son of Odin, the king of Asgard. He was warlike and brave, and had a noble status. He was determined to be the next king of Asgard very early, but because of his arrogant and reckless behavior, an ancient war was set off, and Thor had no remorse at all. The furious Odin deprived him of his divine power and demoted him to the mortal world as punishment. Thor was forced to live with humans, and Thor's hammer fell to the earth with him. And Odin cast a spell on Thor's hammer. Whoever can lift this hammer and deserves it will have the power of Thor. Luo Xia naturally knew what would happen next. Loki took advantage of Odin's sleep and Thor's demotion to ascend the throne of Asgard, and sent the destroyer mech to kill Thor completely. The destroyer was invincible in the town, beating Thor's friend Sif and the three warriors of Asgard and Asgard. At the critical moment, Thor regained control of Thor's hammer, restored his power, and destroyed the destroyer. After Thor returned to Asgard, he smashed the Rainbow Bridge to stop Loki from destroying the Frost Giants, but the broken Rainbow Bridge almost caused Thor and Loki to fall into the abyss of the universe. At the critical moment, Odin woke up and saved the two. At this time, Loki told Odin about his great achievements. If it were not for his brother Thor's obstruction, he would have completely destroyed the Frost Giants, the enemy of Asgard. But Odin denied what Loki did, and that hit Loki completely blackened. He let go and let himself fall into the abyss of the universe. Of course, Luo Xia was not interested in the trivial matters of this family. He was interested in the fact that the blackened Loki met the Chitauri, and finally came to the Earth to make trouble with the Mind Scepter given to him by Thanos through the Cosmic Cube. This is the beginning of the plot of Avengers 1, where the Chitauri are wreaking havoc in New York and fighting the superheroes. Luo Xia is thinking about how he can use this to earn villain points, using the Chitauri to attack the Earth to earn villain points, or waiting for the superheroes to gather and harvest villain points, or both things at the same time. Of course, there is already an opportunity to earn a lot of villain points. That is to participate in the Insight Project. Luo Xia threw the file back on the table, and Pierce was shocked. The demon mask on Luo Xia's face was too eye-catching, which showed his identity. Now there is no one in New York who doesn't know this demon mask. Not to mention Pierce has been supervising the work of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time. Do you know where this is? Pierce smiled, and he pretended to be calm and said, Mr. Devil, your actions are undoubtedly a trap. Of course I know where this is. Luo Xia looked at him and said, the office of Mr. Alexander Pierce, the leader of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and the minister of the Security Council. Pierce's eyes flickered, full of fear, and his back was cold. The identity of a Hydra member is undoubtedly one of his biggest secrets. Walk into a trap? What can you use to arrest me? Those S.H.I.E.L.D. agents? You can call them up now. Tomorrow's headline may be Demon's Bloodbath S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. It's exciting to think about the terrified faces of the citizens. Of course, they want to know what kind of organization S.H.I.E.L.D. is. Pierce looked at Luo Xia without saying anything, but he couldn't force a smile on his face. By the way, I forgot that you have a Winter Soldier. Luo Xia continued to smile. Did you help him brainwash today? It would be bad if he lost control. When the devil told the secret of the Winter Soldier, Pierce's psychological defense line had collapsed for the most part. Compared with the devil's powerful strength, this sense of unknown and constant psychological oppression can bring greater fear. The devil actually knows all his secrets, but Pierce is still insisting. Years of work experience and the identity of a Hydra member have tempered him. His mind is firm and his perseverance is beyond ordinary people. Mr. Devil, I'm sorry, I don't know what you are talking about. Pierce shook his head, his face pale. If you think you can frame a senior member of the Security Council and threaten me to achieve your goals, then you are wrong. You can kill me, but you can't let me become a puppet of the devil. Really? If you resist me, you can't go home for the new year. Luo Xia smiled and told a cold joke. Killing and such, I hate it the most. Compared to killing you, I have more fun ways. Now I go downstairs to S.H.I.E.L.D. to expose your identity as Hydra. Although Director Nick is gone, Agent Hilt should still be in charge of the overall situation as the executive director of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Luo Xia analyzed seriously. The tampered operating programs on the 3 sky carriers are the most powerful evidence. With S.H.I.E.L.D.'s technology, the functions of those codes can be easily identified. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Insight project was replaced with the Hydra version. It's ironic. Pierce was sweating profusely after hearing this, and his body couldn't help shaking. But Luo Xia hadn't finished yet. I have a more interesting suggestion. I can restore the consciousness of the Winter Soldier and let you two be in the same room. Guess what will happen? Luo Xia asked coldly. Will he tear you apart, or will he let you experience the feeling of electric shock and brainwashing? Pierce's psychological defenses were completely defeated. He trembled violently, and suddenly his legs softened and he knelt on the floor. What do you want me to do? Luo Xia looked at Pierce with a smile, and he pointed to the chair opposite the desk. First, ask your assistant to bring me a cup of coffee. Chapter 63 The Devil's Plan. After the knock on the office door, Pierce walked quickly to the door and took the coffee from the crack in the door. If someone saw the devil appear in his office, there would be more trouble. For the Hydra plan and his own safety, Pierce was extremely careful. Pierce held the coffee in both hands and placed it respectfully on the table. But the devil didn't even look at the coffee. Cooperation? I want to cooperate with Hydra. Luo Xia said, I want to join the Insight project. What? Pierce was a little surprised. Sorry, Mr. Devil. I was too nervous just now and may have misheard what you said. You didn't hear it wrong. Luo Xia looked directly at Pierce. Why are you surprised? My hobby is destruction, and Hydra's goal is to destroy the current order and create an order belonging to Hydra in the ruins. At least in the first stage, we will not have a conflict. Pierce's brain was about to crash. Although what the devil said made sense, he couldn't find any fault. But when did Hydra become so evil that it stood on the side of the devil? Hydra only wants to dominate the world, not destroy it. I didn't expect that I would have the opportunity to work with Mr. Devil. I feel extremely honored, Pierce said with a serious face. He stretched out his hand to shake hands with Luo Xia, but Luo Xia ignored him mercilessly. His sneering and contemptuous eyes seemed to say, are you worthy of shaking hands with me? Pierce's expression did not change at all. He continued, Hydra welcomes Mr. Devil to join the Insight project. I believe that with your help, the Insight project, it's the Devil project. Luo Xia suddenly interrupted Pierce and said seriously, from now on, the Insight project will be renamed the Devil project. Pierce was stunned. He looked at Luo Xia with a serious face and couldn't speak. Luo Xia's words have already set the tone for this cooperation, but Pierce will not understand, just like he does not understand the importance of naming rights. Compared with the Insight project, the main content of the Devil project will not change. After killing Nick Fury, we will obtain the authorization of the other member states, and after the 3 sky carriers are launched, we will start weapons to eliminate humans. Luo Xia said, it is to eliminate the humans who are a threat to Hydra. Pierce couldn't help but add, neither he nor Hydra had thought of completely destroying humans. Dr. Arnim Zola will use a set of algorithms to calculate the humans who may pose a threat to Hydra in the future. The total number is several million. Not enough. Far from enough. Hydra is still too merciful. The demon plan will increase this number tenfold. Luo Xia shook his head unsatisfied. He looked at Pierce and smiled strangely. The more thoroughly the original order is destroyed, the better the new order can be established. Pierce was silent. The devil was worthy of being the synonym of terror and killing. His words sentenced tens of millions of people to death. Okay, it seems that the demon plan is more suitable for Hydra. The situation was pressing, and Pierce had to agree to the devil's request. In his opinion, it was better for the demon plan to kill tens of millions of people than for the Insight plan that Hydra had prepared for decades to be destroyed. After all, to kill those people, Dr. Zora only needs to calculate the algorithm for a longer period of time to get new data, and only needs to modify a few sections of the Sky Carrier's running code. Luo Xia nodded with satisfaction. He was very satisfied with Pierce's understanding. Pierce stood up and said, then I wish us a happy cooperation. This is just the beginning. Luo Xia interrupted him again. How can this huge devil plan erupt in silence? How can such a beautiful killing be without an audience? Pierce's face froze. He was full of doubts. Mr. Devil, you mean, we must announce the great devil plan to the world? Let the world wait for death and destruction and fear, Luo Xia said excitedly. I will record the short film and appear in person. In the short film, I will introduce the complete devil plan to the world. 1 hour before the execution of the devil plan, I will let all the networked electronic screens in the world continue to rotate this short film. Let the world wait for death and panic. The process of the 3 sky carriers taking off also needs to be broadcast live. Pierce saw the devil laughing wantonly. I want people to watch the behemoth take off, extend the muzzle to aim, and fire to kill the target. I can also insert close-up shots of the dead being shot. It must be very interesting. Pierce was so scared by this crazy plan that he sat down on the chair. It's not over yet. You have to build a website. People who are terrified and don't know their fate can visit this website and check whether they are on a list of people to be executed. Survivors will cry and revel, and those who are executed will also have time to say goodbye to their families, Luo Xia reminded. So the website must be able to withstand visits from people all over the world. It can't collapse even with hundreds of millions of visits per second. Now Pierce's fear of Luo Xia is from within, without any reason. The devil is a complete lunatic. He is even crazier than the art student who failed the exam. This is an impossible task, Pierce said with horror. If our plan is made public an hour in advance, the devil plan will not succeed. The Security Council will not agree. The agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will explode, and even the superheroes on the street will come to save the world excitedly. Everyone will come to stop us. So what? Luo Xia looked at Pierce coldly. I will stop everyone. No one can destroy the devil plan. I didn't think about showing my strength in front of you. And, I'm not asking for your opinion, Pierce. Pierce was silent. He lowered his head and thought. After decades of development, Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and spread to the top of various fields. If a careful plan and adequate preparation are made, coupled with the powerful strength of the demons, this fantastic plan seems to have the possibility of being successfully implemented. With Hydra's power and S.H.I.E.L.D., it can definitely ensure that the Sky Carrier is launched, and then the Sky Carrier can immediately turn on the stealth mode and fly high in the sky to avoid the long-range destruction and nuclear strikes attempted by various countries. Mr. Demon, I will do my best to meet your needs. I wish us a happy cooperation, Pierce said in a complicated tone. Not try my best, but must. Luo Xia smiled lightly. If there are any omissions, if any link is missing, I will blame everyone involved in the devil plan. The first person to die will be you, Pierce. I will burn you to ashes with dragon flames, Luo Xia said. Then, even if Hydra ushered in a revival, you will not be able to see. Pierce felt cold all over, and seemed unable to move. He could only watch Luo Xia get up and walk towards the floor-to-ceiling glass. Pierce looked over and saw that the demon's body had penetrated the glass. The demon looked back at him with a sneer outside the window, and then disappeared in an instant. Thanks to the book friend, Little Monster is 3 years old for the 2,000 coins for building a building. Thanks to the book friend, I'm tired. Let's destroy it for the 1,500 coins. Thanks to the book friend, Desolate inside and outside for the 500 coins. Chapter 64 Hospital. Luo Xia used the space movement ability of the snake charm to penetrate the glass. Space movement is definitely a powerful ability. It can ignore the obstruction of objects and teleport. In many cases, its effect is even better than the 5 times the speed of sound brought by the rabbit charm LV11. For example, in a completely closed room, Luo Xia, who has 5 times the speed of sound, cannot get out without destroying the wall, but the space movement ability brought by the snake charm can easily do this. So Luo Xia spent 105,000 villain points to upgrade the snake charm to LV3 and gain the ability of space movement. This also cleared his villain value. If Luo Xia wants to become stronger, the only way now is to upgrade the 12 charms, so more villain values will be needed in the future. Of course, Luo Xia also changed his way of obtaining villain values. The devil plan is just Luo Xia's first step. Pepper Potts finally completed the task assigned to her by Tony, although the process was thrilling. While Potts was downloading files, Stanley suddenly appeared in the office. Fortunately, he did not find that Potts was downloading evidence that could put him in prison for decades. Potts called Tony as soon as she left the company. She looked panicked because she had just received not only the cargo list of Stark Industries, but also accidentally discovered the video of the terrorists who kidnapped Tony and Stanley. Tony was kidnapped while testing new weapons some time ago. It was planned by Stanley, a shareholder of Stark. If this matter spread, it would definitely shock the outside world. A villa was built by the sea. This was the private residence of billionaire Tony Stark. Tony had just answered the call from Potts when a high-frequency noise suddenly rang in his ears. A burst of electric current spread from his neck to his whole body, followed by a strong pain, accompanied by a feeling of paralysis, as if his limbs were cut off from the brain, and his whole body's motor function disappeared. Tony's brain was thinking rapidly, and he knew what was generating the electric current and noise. It was a weapon that could quickly paralyze people and make them lose their combat capabilities, but unfortunately it was not approved for production by the government. Only Stark's senior executives could get the first batch of experimental products. Tony got the answer. It was Obadiah Stane. He didn't expect that he would take action before him. Tony, are you there? Potts' anxious voice came from the receiver of the mobile phone. Tony. A hand reached out from behind and grabbed the mobile phone, and supported Tony's body that was leaning back. Stane took a look at the incoming call and decisively hung up the phone. Breathe. Relax. Stane helped Tony lean on the sofa. He walked around the sofa to Tony and took off the protective headphones on his ears. Stane smiled and slowly took out a device from the box he carried with him. When I ordered you to be killed, I was worried that I had killed a hen that laid golden eggs, but I didn't expect that you would not die. Stane used a mechanical device to buckle the miniature arc reactor on Tony's chest, because you still have to lay the last golden egg. The machine turned, and Stane easily took the miniature arc reactor from the paralyzed Tony. Stanley pulled out a plug that connected the arc reactor to Tony's body. Tony was shaking violently, his face was bloodshot, and he could only watch the scene with his eyes wide open. Do you really think that the ideas in your head are yours? Stanley looked at Tony. Your father helped to build the atomic bomb. If he also held onto it like you, what would the world be like? It's so beautiful. Stanley looked at the shining arc reactor in his hand. Tony, it's really a masterpiece of a master. This is the symphony of destiny you created. Stanley put the arc reactor back into the box and turned away. Tony, you shouldn't have involved Miss Potts. Unlike a playboy like you, she is very important to Stark. I wanted to keep her. As the voice fell, a faint laugh came, and the door was completely closed. Tony turned his head with difficulty, and he looked at the elevator. In the research and development room at the bottom of the villa, there was also this arc reactor. That was the first generation of the arc reactor that Tony had made in the cave. It had been replaced and eliminated, but Potts kept it and framed it and gave it to Tony. Now, it has become Tony's last straw. This is a heavily guarded hospital, with fully armed guards and patrols outside, and plainclothes agents with live ammunition on standby inside. The most surprising thing is that those beautiful nurses in white coats are all brisk and sharp-eyed, walking in the corridors in rows of 2 or 3. From many details, it can be seen that they have undergone special training. They are the last line of defense for this hospital and those important patients. When facing people with suspicious identities, they will not hesitate to pull out pistols from under their skirts and shoot. The guards had just finished the security patrol on the 7th floor. The corridor was a little empty, and there was only one nurse on duty at the nurse's desk, who was entering data on the computer. Suddenly, someone tapped a few times on the table in front of her. It was a handsome man in a black suit, who looked like Bern Anderson. Excuse me, where is Director Nick Fury's ward? Who are you? The nurse was a little skeptical. The man in front of her was unfamiliar. She was sure of this. If she had seen this handsome face, she would never forget it. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the man said, taking out an ID card. S.H.I.E.L.D. has some urgent work that needs to be reported to Director Nick in person. The nurse took a glance and believed the man's identity. She was very familiar with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ID cards. And since the man in front of her came here, it means that he has passed the identity authentication of the outer security. F707, The nurse enthusiastically pointed out the direction for the handsome man in front of her. Left. The man showed a charming smile, but he did not report his urgent work immediately, but supported his hands on the nurse's table and looked at her. "I sincerely thank you, beautiful nurse. If you hadn't told me the ward number, I would have to kick open the door of each ward to find that bald head." The nurse was stunned, and the handsome smiling face disappeared and turned into a smiling devil mask. In order to ensure the smooth progress of the devil plan, Luo Xia came to the hospital where Nick was after a friendly exchange with Pierce. He wants to make the director behave himself for a while, or completely wipe him out of this world. At the request of many book friends, I deleted the sentence many years later. At the end of chapter 12, I didn't want to delete it. I think it was well written and successful, but I love you too much, so I can only delete it. So can you give me a vote? Chapter 65 Invasion. Luo Xia put an ordinary business card on the nurse's table. The unsealed sheep spell can give him the ability to leave his body and mildly hypnotize. Under the hypnotic power of the sheep spell, this ordinary business card overlapped with the shield ID in the nurse's memory, and the devil's face also turned into a face that looked like her favorite actor, Bern Anderson. After only half a second of hesitation, the nurse immediately took out a Glock pistol from the drawer. She just raised the gun. But she had trained tens of thousands of times, and the action of drawing and shooting, which had long-formed muscle memory, was still too slow in Luo Xia's eyes. Luo Xia grabbed the gun from her hand with one hand. "Even though I am grateful to you, you want to point the gun at me and it is intolerable." Suddenly, the nurse felt a scorching temperature half a meter away. She looked at Luo Xia's hand in surprise. In Luo Xia's hand, the Glock pistol was quickly melted and turned into a pool of molten iron flowing on the table. During this process, the weak energy of the gunpowder explosion in the bullet was wiped out by the dragon spell, so the nurse only heard a low popping sound, like a mute firecracker being lit. A loud alarm sounded throughout the hospital, and red alarm lights flashed in the corridors and all the wards. While Luo Xia was chatting up the nurse, the staff on duty behind the surveillance camera had already discovered the abnormality on the 7th floor. Luo Xia smiled at her, turned left and left, walking slowly under the red light, looking for the F707 ward where Nick was. Demon invasion. All mobile personnel go to the 7th floor for support. Demon invasion. All mobile personnel go to the 7th floor for support. This voice was repeated tirelessly, and all the guards and agents in the hospital were mobilized in a short time. Suddenly, the door of the F704 ward was pushed open, and a strong figure rushed towards Luo Xia violently. Luo Xia dodged and knocked him to the ground with a punch. Luo Xia shook his wrist. "Steve Rogers, haven't you learned your lesson after being beaten into the hospital by a panda?" Luo Xia's punch didn't hurt Captain America. He stood up and blocked Luo Xia's way. Captain America didn't take the initiative to attack. He knew that he was no match for the devil, and this was the place of S.H.I.E.L.D. He just needed to delay time and wait for support. He didn't have the energy to talk back to the devil. The devil could launch that powerful fire attack at any time, and he had lost his shield. Captain America knew that he had to concentrate, otherwise he would be burned to ashes by the devil's fire tonight. Suddenly, Captain America jumped to the side in shock. At the end of the corridor, a group of armed agents appeared. They saw Captain America and the devil confronting each other in the corridor and shot without hesitation. Captain America rushed back to his ward. Several bullets almost grazed Captain America's body. If he hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been shot now. Ordinary guns are useless against demons. Captain America knows this very well. He leaned against the door panel and looked. The demon really disappeared on the spot. "Captain Rogers," the agents shouted at the end of the corridor. "I'm fine," Captain America responded. "Be careful around you. The demon hasn't left yet." Captain America turned his head to look at the other side of the corridor, trying to find the demon's figure. Yes, be careful around you, especially behind you." Luo Xia's voice came from behind Captain America. He also leaned against the door panel and watched like Captain America. "What are you looking for?" "Is it me?" Captain America's fist was swung back like a whip. but Luo Xia dodged it and hit the metal door panel. The surface of the door panel that was bulletproof enough was dented. "It's a pity that there is no Kung Fu Panda in the hospital, otherwise I would let you have a fair duel," Luo Xia said regretfully. "Don't talk about that damn panda anymore," Captain America said angrily. He clenched his fist and was about to attack, but when he saw Luo Xia's outstretched right hand, he could only turn back halfway and roll into the corridor. Boom! A terrifying flame burst out, and a big hole was blasted out of the iron door of the opposite ward, and the sparks splashed all over Captain America. Luo Xia did not go out, but rushed to the wall of the ward and used the space movement ability of the snake charm. He did not choose to entangle with Captain America and those agents. If he wasted time, Nick might escape. The ward number of Captain America was F704. According to the layout of the hospital, he only needed to use the space movement of the snake charm 3 times in a row to get to the F707 ward where Nick was. Captain America also saw the direction where Luo Xia disappeared, and he instantly guessed the purpose of the devil coming to this hospital tonight. The devil's target was Director Nick. The reason was simple. Director Nick was the most important person in the entire hospital. During his hospitalization, Captain America repeatedly read all the information about the devil in S.H.I.E.L.D. The devil had committed assassination crimes, and he would never come to a hospital to cause damage with evil taste, right? The devil's target is Director Nick. Captain America climbed up and ran towards Nick's ward. Luo Xia quickly entered the F707 ward. He looked at Natasha, who was hiding behind the ward door with a gun in hand with some displeasure. Natasha looked at him with some embarrassment. "Don't shoot," Luo Xia said as he walked to the wide-open window. The cold wind blew in, blowing the curtains all over the place. An iron chain went straight to the bottom of the window. On the ground, under the street lamp, Director Nick was surrounded by several people. He looked back at the demon by the window with a cold face. Luo Xia didn't care after watching Nick get into a bulletproof SUV. Nick's choice of a car as a means of transportation doomed him to a tragedy tonight. Luo Xia stretched out his hand and kept activating the dragon spell, firing at all directions. The violent dragon flame brought the will of destruction, and neither the buildings nor the crowd could be spared. "Miss Natasha?" Luo Xia left the window sill. Countless bullets shot at the wall, leaving potholes. "Mr. Devil, this is actually a misunderstanding. Let me explain." Natasha raised her hands and said, of course she would not shoot, although this is a hospital and she could get emergency treatment immediately after shooting. Luo Xia suddenly aimed in her direction, and Natasha kicked the wall and rushed out. Flames burst out, and the door panels and the agents behind the door were engulfed by the flames. Captain America, who had just arrived at the door, was also blown away by the violent explosion. Swish! A sharp arrow shot through the air in the dark night, and a red light flashed on the tip of the arrow. Luo Xia shot a flame and detonated the arrow. There is no doubt that it was Hawkeye's arrow. No one in S.H.I.E.L.D. used the bow and arrow except him. Luo Xia became interested. So far, all the superheroes he met could help him unlock a spell. Hawkeye, as a member of the first generation of the Avengers, should be no exception. Could there be other gains tonight? Luo Xia activated the chicken spell and the rabbit spell and disappeared from the spot in an instant. By the time he jumped over the window and reached the sky, he had exceeded the speed of sound. A sonic boom was heard, shaking the windows. If the window glass had not been bulletproof, the glass of the entire building would have been shattered. Chapter 66. The Winter Soldier. The piercing sound of alarm bells floated over the base, and the snow-white searchlights kept sweeping across the night sky, illuminating those dim corners. In the sky, Luo Xia quickly found Hawkeye, who was drawing his bow and arrow among the crowd. He was aiming at the window of Ward F707, and the red signal light was flashing on the arrow. Luo Xia dived down, and his speed was 10 times faster than that of a hawk hunting. The sharp Hawkeye seemed to have a premonition. Although he did not react to what it was, he subconsciously aimed at Luo Xia's direction and shot the arrow in his hand. Luo Xia turned around and easily dodged the arrow. He grabbed Hawkeye's collar and turned back upwards, constantly increasing his altitude. When Luo Xia climbed to a height of several dozen meters, the agents fell to the ground one after another, and the violent sonic boom spread. Their eardrums were easily shattered, and other organs in the body were also damaged to varying degrees. Hawkeye, who was captured by Luo Xia, was in a more critical situation. Severe pain came from all over his body. Hawkeye felt as if all the bones in his body were broken, but even in this situation, Hawkeye still held the bow tightly in his hand. People can always burst out their potential in times of crisis, and Hawkeye also knew that if he lost the bow and arrow in his hand, he would have no choice but to die. After reaching a height of several dozen meters, Luo Xia frowned while holding Hawkeye in one hand. So far, the system has not given an improvement in the unsealing of the talisman, so Luo Xia can be sure that Hawkeye cannot unseal his talisman. It seems that it is not so easy to quickly unseal 12 talismans. You are really useless, Luo Xia couldn't help but mutter in a low voice. Even Black Widow could get the recognition of the system and help him unlock the snake talisman. Goodbye. Luo Xia let go of his hand and let Hawkeye fall freely. Luo Xia looked at the direction and chased in the direction where Nick's convoy escaped. Hawkeye, who was in free fall, also exhausted his last strength. He shot a special arrow towards the wall. The sharp tip of the arrow easily sank into the wall. The arrow body transformed into a gripper and pierced into the wall, ensuring that the tip of the arrow could remain stable and bite the wall without falling off no matter how strong the impact force was. This special arrow had a thin and sturdy cable at the end, and the end of the cable was connected to the bow in Hawkeye's hand. Hawkeye held the mechanical bow tightly, and the landing device made his falling speed continue to decrease, until Hawkeye finally smashed a window on the 6th floor and rolled into the room. Luo Xia quickly caught up with the bulletproof off-road vehicle that Nick was riding. A red light shot out in the darkness ahead, and Luo Xia suddenly raised his body. It was a single soldier missile. After the single soldier missile hit the bulletproof off-road vehicle, a violent explosion occurred. A huge flame rose 10 meters high, and the bulletproof off-road vehicle was also blown away. After several rolls, it landed on its side and stopped. A group of people appeared on the dark road. They were shooting at the overturned car in the distance with guns and kept approaching. The leader was very familiar to Luo Xia. He had medium-length hair and a black mask on his face. The most eye-catching thing was that one of his hands was replaced with a silver-white metal arm. Winter Soldier, Captain America's good friend, Bucky. When the Howling Commandos were on a mission to capture Dr. Zola, Bucky fell from the train into the valley. Everyone thought he was dead, but he was rescued by Hydra and brainwashed into a perfect killer Winter Soldier. This person is a typical black 3 times stronger, white 7 points weaker. Luo Xia slowly landed. When a member of the Hydra action team saw the demon falling from the sky, he subconsciously raised his gun, but was immediately stopped by the people around him. The devil is our ally. Sorry. Luo Xia raised his hand and said lightly, I never make alliances with people. The firelight illuminated the last terrified face of the Hydra member. The others immediately opened fire at the demon. Of course, no bullet could land on Luo Xia. He was flying at a very fast speed. Luo Xia came to a member who was shooting, triggered the grenade on him and flew out. After a few seconds, it was too late for the man to react, and he was torn into pieces in a fire. Soon, the team sent by Hydra to assassinate Nick collapsed, and only the Winter Soldier was still shooting at Luo Xia's afterimage in the air. The Winter Soldier is known as the most perfect killer. So far, his success rate in assassination missions is 100%. Before killing Nick Fury, the target of this time, the Winter Soldier will not retreat. The Winter Soldier, who has a strong sense of combat, suddenly stopped shooting and rolled to the side. The next moment, a pillar of fire fell on the place where he just stood. The asphalt road surface was lifted up, revealing the charred soil. If this shot landed on the Winter Soldier, he would either die or be disabled, but the eyes on the Winter Soldier's black mask were full of coldness. Without the slightest fear, the Winter Soldier raised his rifle, but found that the magazine was empty. He threw the gun to the side of the road and raised his metal arm to confront Luo Xia. Luo Xia turned slightly, raised his hand and activated the dragon spell on the overturned SUV. Even if Luo Xia had the leisure to tease the beautiful nurse during the invasion tonight, and saw Hawkeye also enthusiastically took him to play bungee jumping, Luo Xia would not forget the real purpose of his invasion tonight. In order to ensure that the devil plan that can earn a lot of villain points can be successfully completed, he can't let Nick Fury, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., go tonight. The door of the overturned bulletproof SUV was still open, and an agent was still trying to climb out, but a ball of fire kept enlarging in front of his eyes. The bulletproof SUV was completely engulfed by flames, and there were continuous explosions. The rising flames illuminated this section of the road. The sound of car horns came from a distance, and a few white high beams pierced the night like swords. It was the rescue of the base. Rasha turned to look at the Winter Soldier, but he didn't expect that the Winter Soldier, who was so aggressive just now, turned around and wanted to flee the scene immediately after seeing Nick's car explode under the attack of the demon. Rasha chased after him, but just when Rasha was about to approach the Winter Soldier's back seemed to have eyes, and he swung out his metal arm like a whip to lash at Rasha, who was approaching him from behind. Rasha used the ability of the snake spell to move in space and instantly moved behind the Winter Soldier, and then used the ability of the rabbit spell to control speed to stop, and he punched the Winter Soldier in the back of the neck. The rabbit spell can not only speed up, but when the level is upgraded to LV11 and it is used skillfully enough, it can also instantly erase the kinetic energy of oneself and moving objects. The Winter Soldier knew nothing about the power of the demon, and Rasha's set of combined punches made him unable to defend. He was knocked to the ground by Rasha before he could react, but Luo Xia's attack did not make him unable to move. The Winter Soldier rolled to his feet. He paid attention to Luo Xia's right hand that could release fire attacks, raised his fist and attacked actively. Chapter 67 Good and Evil. Suddenly, the Winter Soldier saw the eyes of the demon in front of him light up. Fortunately, he reacted quickly enough to raise his metal arm to block. Two lasers shot out from Luo Xia's eyes and hit the metal arm of the Winter Soldier, and a bunch of sparks burst out. The Winter Soldier dodged and stepped back. He glanced at the two black marks on his metal arm. Luo Xia shook his head slightly. The power of the talisman was too weak before it was unsealed. If the pig talisman was upgraded to the maximum level, this attack would probably easily penetrate the metal arm of the Winter Soldier. There was still no emotion in the eyes of the Winter Soldier. Now he was in a dilemma and could only raise his metal arm to confront Luo Xia. "You are much more useful than Hawkeye," Luo Xia suddenly said, which was his praise. Detected anti-hero Winter Soldier. Tiger spell has been unsealed and can be upgraded with villain value. Try to make the Winter Soldier have negative emotions. More surprises are waiting for your exploration. Luo Xia deliberately looked for Hawkeye but got nothing. He didn't expect that he could unseal the Tiger Talisman by playing with the Winter Soldier casually. The Tiger Talisman was the fifth talisman he had unsealed, and he was one step closer to his goal of unsealing all the talismans. Tiger Talisman LV1 allows the holder to have the power of a clone. When using the power of a clone, it will become two individuals affected by good and evil, and each individual will retain all the power of the original body. Tiger Talisman LV1 can balance all the power in the holder's body, and you can gain power other than the power of the talisman. Tiger Talisman LV1 upgrade to LV2 requires 90,000 villain points. You will have the power of a clone. You can create more clones, but the power of the clone will be reduced. After upgrading, your balance power can also be applied to other targets, including non-living things. Your subjective consciousness can be continuously transferred between individuals, not affected by time and space, and the subjective consciousness can stop the clone, but the subjective consciousness will also be affected by the clone's view of good and evil. You can upgrade the level of the Tiger Talisman through the system. When it reaches LV11, you will have the ability to split power. You can split the energy you have, and this ability can also be used on other targets. But when the target's energy is greater than the energy of the Dragon Talisman, the Tiger Talisman cannot take effect on the target. At this time, Luo Xia's talisman status is also updated. Number of villain values, 7054. Rabbit Talisman LV11, cannot be upgraded. Dragon Talisman LV7, the villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 225,000. Rat Talisman LV1, the villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 525,000. Snake Talisman LV3, The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 620,000. Tiger Talisman LV1. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 1,125,000. Now Luo Xia has only one thought, that the devil plan that can make all humans feel fear must go smoothly, otherwise, with the little villain value he gained on the streets of New York every day, it is estimated that by the time Thanos snapped his fingers, the 12 spells would not have reached the maximum level. Lights from the distant intersection shone on the Winter Soldier's face, causing him to squint slightly. The supportive shield has arrived, and some people immediately started to rescue the burning bulletproof SUV. The rising flames continued to emit miserable and back-chilling wails. This bulletproof SUV is extremely sturdy. Even if it withstands a single soldier missile, the people in the car will not suffer fatal injuries. However, the explosion temperature of the dragon spell is extremely high. After hitting it head-on, it directly produces a violent explosion. The heat wave can instantly ignite all the combustibles in the car. Shield's support forces also sent agents to chase the people who attacked Nick's car. The convoy is running wildly on the road. The Winter Soldier stared at the demon standing in the air with full vigilance, but he suddenly found that the demon seemed to be distracted and stood still in the distance. The Winter Soldier glanced at the demon, then glanced at the shield convoy that was chasing him, and decisively turned around and fled. After a few seconds, Luo Xia came back to his senses. He looked at the back of the Winter Soldier running away without reacting. Suddenly he turned around and saw the support department of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was no doubt that Captain America would be among them. After all, he was the strongest among all the agents. Suddenly Luo Xia came up with a fun game. What would happen if the brainwashed Winter Soldier met Captain America? Of course, before that, he had to take off the Winter Soldier's mask first, so that Captain America could recognize Bucky, his good friend who participated in World War II together. Luo Xia's execution ability has always been strong. He leaned over and flew in the direction where the Winter Soldier fled. With the blessing of the rabbit spell, Luo Xia has not met anyone who can be faster than him. Luo Xia activated the rabbit spell again to increase his speed, and he passed by the Winter Soldier. When the Winter Soldier just reacted, his mask had been torn off by Luo Xia, but Luo Xia only had the ability to kill the Winter Soldier now, and had no way to subdue him. So Luo Xia could only use the rabbit spell and the snake spell to entangle the Winter Soldier, making it difficult for him to move and only stay where he was. The Winter Soldier faced the difficult demon with murderous intent on his face, but he had no way to escape from the demon, let alone kill the demon. He listened to the roar of the car engine approaching until it surrounded him. "Captain Rogers, it's the demon, and the assassin who assassinated Director Nick," Natasha said in the driver's seat. "I thought they were in the same group." After Director Nick was attacked, the agent who had not lost consciousness in the overturned car reported this information to them, but Captain America did not respond, and Natasha continued to ask, "What should we do now?" Captain America still did not respond. Natasha turned her head, and Captain America on the side was already sluggish, and his expression could not be described in words. "Bucky?" Captain America muttered to himself in disbelief. Captain America will never forget that scene. Bucky fell off the cliff, and his screams echoed in the empty snow valley. This was once his most regretful thing. The car lights shone on that familiar face, and Captain America saw it clearly, but he still couldn't accept this reality. He was surprised that Bucky, who was in trouble, could survive. They once fought side by side and took down Hydra's bases one after another, but now Bucky has become a killer. He just attacked Director Nick. After the agents got out of the car, they raised their guns and waited for orders. Captain America's voice sounded in everyone's earphones. "Everyone put down your guns." Although the agents didn't understand, they still executed Captain America's order. After all, the killer was surrounded and he had nowhere to escape. Of course, the devil was an exception. So far, no agent has thought of leaving the devil behind. "Captain Rogers," the devil's voice sounded, "I'm sorry for taking your shield last time. Tonight I'll give you back an old friend." As he said that, Luo Xia flashed behind the Winter Soldier and punched him to the ground. As soon as the Winter Soldier got up, he saw Captain America running towards him, and he met his enemy without hesitation. The culprit, Luo Xia, had quietly disappeared into the darkness, thanks to the book friend Little Monster 3 years old for his 6,000 point reward, thanks to the book friend Yan Zai Xiaozhao for his 100 point reward, thanks to the book friend Golden Voice for his 100 point reward, thanks to the book friend Han Minx for his 500 point reward, thanks to the book friend Mota Village Official for his 100 point reward. Chapter 68 Iron Overlord. Watching Captain America approach, Winter Soldier pulled out a dagger from his thigh and held it in reverse, his eyes full of ferocity. Winter Soldier stared at Captain America's movements and waited for the right moment. If the distance was close enough or Captain America showed a flaw, he would instantly burst out with a killing move, leaving no room for maneuver. "Bucky, you're still alive." Captain America was very excited. "Why did you become like this?" Winter Soldier's expression did not change at all. He clenched the dagger. "Bucky?" Captain America looked at the Winter Soldier, who did not react at all and was a little confused. "Don't you recognize me?" "Who is Bucky?" Winter Soldier pulled out a pistol from his back and shot. Fortunately, Captain America, who had rich combat experience, rolled over and dodged the moment Winter Soldier pulled out his gun. Without a shield, he could not withstand the bullets. Several bullets hit the asphalt road and splashed sparks. Captain America also kicked the pistol out of Winter Soldier's hand with a precise kick. The two fought together, and the killer's strength was actually comparable to Captain America, which surprised the agents present. They fought back and forth, and Captain America had a slight advantage in punches and kicks, but the Winter Soldier's metal arm had strong attack and defense power. Captain America, who lost his shield, was slowly unable to resist. The Winter Soldier swung his metal arm to hit Captain America, and after Captain America blocked it, the dagger in his right hand cut across Captain America's abdomen. Fortunately, Captain America's reaction speed was fast enough to retract his abdomen in time, and the tip of the knife cut through his uniform and only made a shallow cut. "We have known each other since childhood." Captain America grabbed the Winter Soldier's hand holding the dagger. "What happened to you?" The Winter Soldier suddenly hit Captain America with his forehead, and his metal arm hit Captain America's head hard. Captain America was knocked to the ground, and blood flowed from his forehead. "I never knew you." The Winter Soldier prepared to attack again, but he was shot in the abdomen as soon as he took a step. "Put down your weapon and kneel on the ground." Natasha raised her pistol and said coldly. The Winter Soldier turned around and looked around. A dozen agents raised their guns and surrounded him. The red dots of the gun's auxiliary aiming were shot densely on his body. "This is your last warning. Put down your weapons and kneel on the ground," Natasha shouted, aiming at the Winter Soldier's head. The Winter Soldier had no choice but to do as he was told. He threw away the dagger and knelt on the ground. The agent's encirclement continued to shrink, and several red dots even moved to his forehead. If he made the slightest movement, there was no doubt that these agents would shoot him to death. Natasha waved her hand, and two agents took out the reinforced handcuffs specially made by SHIELD for people with superpowers. It was not until the handcuffs were put on the Winter Soldier that all the agents breathed a sigh of relief. Captain America got up from the ground, turned his head and looked at the Winter Soldier who was being escorted into the car, his eyes full of complicated emotions. "If you hold back when facing the enemy, you will die, and you may kill all of us." Natasha looked back at the extinguished fire not far away. "Someone has died tonight. He is not my enemy, but my brother and comrade," Captain America said with his head down. "He is right, I can guarantee it. But he just looked at me like that, but he didn't know me." Bucky's unit was captured in 1943, and Dr. Zola used them for human experiments. Maybe for this reason, Bucky and I did not die after falling off a cliff during a mission together. Captain America whispered, "It's all my fault." "This is not your fault, Captain. What will happen to him?" Captain America turned to look at Natasha. "Will Bucky be sentenced to death? If he is about to be executed, will you shoot at us to save him?" Natasha asked. "Or will you watch him die?" "I don't know." Natasha shook her head in disappointment. "He won't die, but he will stay in SHIELD's secret prison for a long time, and the technical department will be interested in his metal arm." After Natasha finished speaking, she turned around and got on the car that was escorting the Winter Soldier. The car started and drove back to the base. A red and yellow figure passed over the Brooklyn Bridge, and the flames burning behind him were very conspicuous in the dark sky. "It's Iron Man," someone on the bridge shouted, and he hurriedly took out his mobile phone to take pictures. Luo Xia, who was sitting on the top of the Brooklyn Bridge enjoying the night breeze, also slightly side-eyed and looked at Iron Man's receding back. "The energy remaining is 48%, and it is still decreasing, sir," Jarvis reminded. "This heart is not designed for continuous flight. It may not be enough to support the end of the battle. Increase the output power, faster." Tony was anxious. "Report the energy status at any time." Finally, after flying over a block, Tony saw the building of Stark Industrial Park. Jarvis transmitted the scan picture to the screen. Potts was fleeing in front, and a huge mecha was chasing her behind her. Stanislav actually created the Iron Man armor, and he equipped it with a large number of high-lethality weapons. Tony knew from the appearance that Stanislav's Iron Man had a stronger destructive power than his Mark series. Energy down to 45%. At this time, Tony was less than 100 meters away from Iron Man. "Concentrate the energy on the chest." Tony gave the order. The Iron Man armor streaked across the night sky. Iron Man turned around after hearing the voice. At this time, Tony's armor had completed the energy storage, and a powerful energy beam shot out from his chest. The power of Iron Man's chest cannon far exceeded that of the palm cannon, and the powerful impact blasted Iron Man away. Energy down to 32%. "Tony," Potts lost her voice, her tear-stained face full of fear. "Go to a safe place first, Pepper," Tony said confidently. "I'll deal with him." Before Tony could speak, the shoulder rocket fired by Iron Man hit him. Tony fell in the explosion and fell on the concrete floor, leaving deep scratches. "Tony, this thing is definitely your most perfect design. No other," Stanislav shouted excitedly. "I am so strong now." The huge ironmonger ran on the road like an elephant. Iron Man was hugged by him as soon as he stood up. "Concentrate your energy on your feet, otherwise I will be strangled to death." Iron Man's feet sprayed out brilliant arcs, but he could not break free from Ironmonger's arms. Ironmonger held him and broke through two walls and smashed on the road behind a building. Iron Man fell heavily to the ground and rolled more than 10 meters before stopping. "Sir, the probability of your concussion is 79%. An unlucky taxi was crushed by the flying Ironmonger, and several cars braked sharply and slowed down to drive past him, leaving black marks on the road. Of course, there were even more unlucky drivers who drove their cars into Ironmonger's buttocks." Ironmonger raised the car. "I am the strongest man. After reading many book reviews, I know how to adjust. Play when you should play, and don't be soft when you should be bad." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. Hero appears. "Put it down, Stanny. Don't hurt those innocent people." Tony stretched out his hand and said loudly, "It's their bad luck." Stanny didn't care. "Tony, we all make money from the dead. Why are you pretending to be kind now?" Ironmonger lifted the car and turned around, and he actually threw the car weighing more than a ton onto the viaduct dozens of meters away. "No." Tony was full of grief and indignation. "This thing should be controlled by me. It's just a flying toy on you, but it can become a battlefield overlord in my hands." Ironmonger stretched out his hand again to stop a car and lifted it up. "Don't you want to save them? I'll give you this chance." This time, Ironmonger threw the car and hit Iron Man. The three passengers in the car were scared and screamed continuously. Iron Man tried hard to catch the flying car, and the asphalt road under his feet was shattered. Ironmonger raised his arm, and Iron Man saw a red dot shot on his chest. "Oh, bad." Tony hurriedly threw the car in his hand to the side. Boom. Stanislav is indeed a crazy arms dealer. All the weapons he loaded on Ironmonger are first-class weapons produced by Stark. These equipments combined together beat Tony to retreat step by step. Energy drops to 19%. "Don't tell me these things, just put the progress bar on the screen." Tony hurriedly gave an order. "Supply all the energy to the power system." Iron Man began to rise. With his flying speed, Ironmonger couldn't aim at all. Ironmonger didn't carry an artificial intelligence system like Jarvis, and the aiming system was far behind Iron Man. After several missed shots, Ironmonger didn't continue to waste ammunition. His legs sprayed a lot of flames, and Ironmonger's huge body began to slowly rise into the air and continue to accelerate. Tony, fortunately I also added a flight system, Stanislav said proudly. Where can you run now, sir? His armor looks like it can fly. I saw it. Okay. Tony controlled the armor to start flying vertically upwards, constantly raising the flight altitude. Ironmonger also chased after him. Stanley knew how talented Tony was. Tony even surpassed his old partner Howard Stark, so Stanley knew what terrible consequences would happen if Tony was allowed to escape. Sir, you want to fly high in the sky to make his mech have icing problems? Jarvis reminded. But with the remaining energy now, the probability of flying to the maximum altitude is %. I know, Tony said calmly. Sprint at full speed. Man, as the manufacturer of the mech, Tony would of course know this, but now he has no other choice. This war was originally unfair. Stanley stole his upgraded arc reactor, and he could only fight with the original arc reactor. Stanley was able to create Ironmonger entirely because of him. So Tony must destroy Ironmonger. This is his mission. Save me. A girl in a dress was dangling in the air, her hands tightly grasping the broken metal handguard on the viaduct. Someone save me. The girl's long golden hair was dangling in the air, and the night wind blew up her long dress, like a petal. But her situation was very dangerous, and she might fall and wither at any moment. In just 10 seconds, her hands were sore, as if she was about to lose her strength. But the girl held on to the metal pipe tightly and didn't let go. She kept calling for help, hoping to meet a passing superhero who could save her. Hero, here we go. A righteous voice came from the sky, from far to near, and brought with it the sound of a whistling wind. The girl's cry for help became louder, even covering the chaotic car horns. Save me, beautiful lady. I will save your life. A heartwarming voice came from behind the girl. She felt a pair of hands spread out under her armpits and lifted her up with force, and his fingers were very long. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I was watching the two tin men fighting just now and didn't notice your crisis, the person behind her said with guilt. Thank you, sir. Thank you for saving me. You showed up at just the right time, the girl said loudly, and as she spoke, she leaned back to see which superhero saved her. But what the girl saw was a smiling devil mask. Ah! The girl screamed until her voice broke. Sonic attack? Are you a superhero too? Luo Xia looked up in disdain. You are not a fan of the devil? Then I wish you good luck. Bye, Luo Xia said as he let go of his hand, and the girl began to fall, and the speed kept accelerating. She felt that she was falling and could only continue to scream wildly. Luo Xia quickly picked her up again, and he grabbed the girl's collar and flew upwards. I'm your fan, Mr. Devil. I'm so glad to see you. The girl almost yelled. You're my idol. You're my superhero. Hello, fan friend. Do you want a photo or an autograph? Luo Xia was stunned as he spoke, because he couldn't feel the weight in his hands. He held the broken dress with a face full of suspicion. Is it a fake product? It was clear that he had played a bungee jumping game with Hawkeye's back tie an hour ago. The speed was so fast that Hawkeye's clothes persisted. The girl without the dress screamed again while falling. Luo Xia picked her up again, and this time he chose a caring princess hug. The trembling girl gasped in Luo Xia's arms. She had never felt such a safe embrace. Let's continue the topic just now. I can also sign your autograph. Luo Xia glanced at her. I have to say that black lace is very tasteful. Luo Xia sent the girl back to the ground, and the girl knelt on the ground with shaking legs. Good luck, beautiful lady, Luo Xia said as he flew away, and the shredded skirt fell on the girl's head. Luo Xia came to the roof of the Stark factory. He looked up at the dark night sky and could vaguely see two falling figures. He raised his hand and aimed, activating the dragon spell. Backup energy has been activated, and emergency landing has been initiated. Sir, Iron Man made a difficult emergency landing, and suddenly a column of flame shot from the ground and hit him. Boom. Sir, the armor is damaged by 30%. The armor lost control and began to fall vertically. Amid Tony's exclamation, the mecha hit the roof of the factory heavily, knocked a hole and finally stopped on the second floor. "Sir, the armor is damaged by 59%. Shit, if I knew who attacked me, I would. Are you okay?" Suddenly, a man stood at the entrance of the cave and looked down at him. "Mr. Stark." "Demon?" Tony swallowed his words back. "As you can see, I'm fine, Mr. Devil, but you missed the target just now. Thanks to the book friend, Little Monster is 3 years old for his 1,000 point reward. Thanks to the book friend, One Wilg Xing, Jiang old friend for his 2,000 point reward. Thanks to the book friend, it's hard to come up with a nickname for his 100 point reward. Thanks to the book friend, Lonely Street K for his 100 point reward. Chapter 70, The Devil's Gift. Iron Man wanted to fly to the top floor through the hole he had just made, but he didn't expect that he would get stuck at the hole. The demon looked down at him with disgust on his face. He tried to climb out with his hands on the floor, but he failed despite great effort. "Jarvis, sir, are you sure you want to supply all the remaining energy to the power system? Forget it." He hammered on the concrete floor with his fists, and every time he punched, fragments flew. "Are you sure you don't want to help?" Tony looked at the indifferent demon and said helplessly, "Friends should help each other. Aren't we enemies? Everyone says you are a superhero and I am an evil villain." Luo Xia's tone was a little strange. "As an enemy, it's good that I don't make up for it now. What do you think?" "I knew it a long time ago," Tony said dissatisfiedly, "and your factory is built very solidly." "Of course." Tony's tone was full of pride. There is a giant arc reactor underneath. The demon's reaction did not exceed Tony's expectations. Is there really someone who can make friends with the demon? Anyway, it won't be him. They are friends only when the devil needs them. This is in line with the devil's style. Tony never expected to get help from the devil. As long as the devil can stand aside and not interfere in his fight with Ironmonger, Tony will be satisfied. Suddenly Tony felt the floor shaking. He turned his head and saw Ironmonger running towards him. It seemed that the high-altitude fall caused by the icing problem did not completely solve the problem of Ironmonger. Tony looked at Ironmonger, who was rushing like a rhino and was covered in cold sweat. He waved his fist and hit the floor hard. His remaining energy was not enough to support the launch of energy cannons to repel Ironmonger. At this time, the demon who was watching turned around and asked, "Do you need help, Mr. Stark?" "What?" Tony was a little surprised. Would the devil be so kind? As he said that, Luo Xia raised his hand and pointed it at the floor in front of Tony, and the dragon totem slowly lit up. It seems that the devil wants to help him blow up this hard floor. No, no, no. Tony refused quickly. He still remembered the scene of the demon smashing the Mark IV armor with one blow. Even if he was beaten up by Ironmonger, he didn't want the demon to help him out of trouble in this way. Luo Xia turned around and aimed at the Ironmonger who was running towards him. The dragon spell was activated, and a red flame column carrying powerful energy shot out, accurately hitting the flying Ironmonger. Boom! A huge explosion was heard, and the heat wave blew Luo Xia's clothes up. Ironmonger was hit hard by the blow, and he didn't know where he was blown to. Tony was a little curious about why the demon helped him. Anyway, it couldn't be because he helped the demon make the Iron Spider suit and model before. The demon would not remember favors, because Ironmonger was too ugly. It seems that the demon's aesthetics are also online. Compared with that fat man, the red and yellow classic car spray paint and streamlined structure of the Mark series are much stronger. In any case, the current situation is in his favor, and Tony can only bury these disturbing speculations in his heart. "And you, my friend?" Tony gave Luo Xia a thumbs up. "You are the real hero." As he said that, he punched the floor with all his strength. The arc pulse device on his feet worked hard, spraying sparks intermittently, and barely sent him to the top floor. "Sir, I captured the movement curve of Ironmonger." He started to run away without any offensive intention. It seems that Stanislavski also recognized that the person standing on the roof of the factory building was a demon. The demon's powerful blow poured cold water on the excited Stanislavski. Ironmonger could not let him do whatever he wanted in this world. "I have to catch up with him," Tony said firmly. Iron Man can't let a mobile arsenal wander the streets of New York. He stretched his arms to his side, opened his palms, and the arc pulse device started, and 2 balls of weak flame sprayed. But he had just flown a few meters when the armor stalled and fell to the top floor again. "Sir, the backup energy has been completely exhausted." After saying this, the armor was also disconnected from Jarvis. Tony was lying on the floor. Seeing the screen was off, he could not help but hammer the floor hard. Fuck. If Stanley had not stolen his arc reactor after the sneak attack, the situation of this battle would definitely be reversed. You know, his armor was made to deal with demons, and it was constantly upgraded to Mark V. The design of Mark V can completely defeat Ironmonger, but now his armor has run out of energy and oil, and it is obviously unable to continue to chase Stanley. Can he only let Stanley wear Ironmonger and get away with it? "It looks like you need help," a plain voice came from the side. It was the demon. Tony was sweating profusely, and he had forgotten about the demon who had just shot him. Now, let alone chasing Ironmonger, how to survive safely in the hands of the demon is still a problem. "Of course." "Can you lend me your phone?" Tony pretended to be calm. "I need to contact my assistant. The losses in this battle are not small. I need to call 911. Now I feel dizzy and my chest hurts. It must be a concussion and rib fracture." "No, you don't need these at all." Luo Xia shook his head. Tony, lying on the floor, vaguely saw the devil stretched out his hand and pointed it at his chest. It was dazzling in an instant. "No," Tony exclaimed. He seemed to feel the breath of death. But the next moment the screen in front of him lit up. "Sir, good evening." Jarvis reconnected the armor and continued to work, energy remaining 50%. "What?" Tony was stunned. A beam of energy light shot out from the dragon-shaped totem in Luo Xia's hand, directly connected to the arc reactor on Iron Man's chest. Energy reserve 100%. Tony's brain had crashed. Energy reserve 200%. Tony reacted. The arc he was using now was very fragile and could not withstand overload energy storage at all. "Enough, enough, stop, Mr. Devil." Energy reserve 300%. Luo Xia stopped the energy transmission, and Iron Man was instantly ejected into the air. "Medical miracle," Luo Xia said to himself, and then he turned and left. Tony felt a little heavy. He shouted at the back of the devil, "I didn't say I wanted to exchange anything with you, Mr. Devil. Free." The voice of the devil disappeared into the night. Tony's face became heavier, and he suddenly remembered a sentence Zweig said in The Queen of the Guillotines. At that time, she was too young to know that all the gifts given by fate had already been secretly marked with a price. Tony was stunned for more than 10 seconds, and finally came back to his senses after Jarvis reminded him. He had no time to care about what conspiracy the devil was brewing again, and now he was going to judge Iron King. "Jarvis, I feel like I'm going to explode. Release some energy." A large amount of energy poured into the power system of the armor, and the 4 arc pulses were overloaded. Iron Man shot out at high speed, breaking the speed of sound in an instant. Detecting that Iron Man is in awe, "You have become the mysterious, powerful, incomprehensible and unbeatable villain in his heart, rewarding you with a villain value of 200,000. Is this the surprise and special reward that the system mentioned when the spell was unsealed?" Luo Xia thought. Chapter 71 Gwen's Troubles. On Monday, there was a traffic jam at the entrance of Midtown Institute of Technology, and the vehicles were moving slowly. Gwen, who was sitting in the passenger seat of a black car, held up the window with her hands and stared outside. It was early December, and Christmas had not yet arrived, but the festive atmosphere had already spread throughout New York City. The green plants around the school were also decorated with ribbons, and under the ribbons were students walking and skateboarding, and the vitality of youth was overwhelming. Gwen suddenly remembered that this would be her last Christmas in middle school. "It's been a long time since I came to send you to school. You have changed a lot. Fortunately, I still know the way. You often sent me to school during the years when I was in middle school," Gwen said without turning her head. "Of course, but since you and Luo Xia started dating, you have never taken my car to school again." George's tone was a little emotional. "And you don't have to pick me up in the afternoon when you go home. Although Luo Xia has reduced my troubles, I always feel that my sweetheart has been taken away by him." "I am a trouble?" Gwen was very dissatisfied. "Don't worry about it," George said with a smile. Christmas is coming again. What gift do you want? A brand new drum set? A customized chocolate house cake? Oh, I remember that I have to prepare one more Christmas gift this year. Dad. Gwen turned and looked at George, her eyes full of resentment. So what happened between you two? Was there a conflict, or a quarrel? George asked with concern. I'm sorry that I shouldn't ask about this, but your mother and I are very concerned about this. After all, this is our daughter's first love. Nothing happened to us. Everything is fine. Why do you ask this? Gwen said curiously. Couldn't he have something to do today? Even a full-time driver has to take time off, not to mention that he is my boyfriend. Or his old car was towed away for repairs or something? You stayed at home all weekend, reading, studying, playing drums. No dates, no phone calls. Your mother asked you to invite Luo Xia to dinner at home, but you refused. George spread his hands and said, this is not a sign of being in love. I forgot you are a police officer, Gwen said faintly. You are really observant, sir. Thank you for the compliment. George's face was full of memories. When your mother and I were in love. Stop, stop, stop. I know, you've said it many times. Gwen was defeated. Okay, Dad. Luo Xia and I do have a little problem, but don't worry, I can handle it myself. I believe you, George said. Invite him to our house for Christmas after we make up. Your mother is learning to cook Chinese food recently. Okay, I'll get off here. Bye, Gwen said, picking up her backpack and escaping from the car. Gwen, George called her. Look, the old broken car that was towed away for repair. George pointed to a Ford car parked on the side of the road. Gwen recognized it as Luo Xia's old broken car at a glance. Gwen covered her face with her hands and didn't say anything. George smiled at his daughter's back. Gwen, be patient when dealing with problems. Gwen raised her hand and waved, then walked into the school gate without looking back. Stepping into the campus, Gwen greeted several classmates she knew with a smile on her face, but her mood gradually worsened. Gwen and Luo Xia hadn't been in touch for a weekend. Of course, it was Gwen who unilaterally isolated all this. That night, Gwen put on a spider mask and entered Luo Xia's house. And Luo Xia actually kissed Spider-Woman. Gwen almost indulged in that kiss, but she still woke up. Gwen pushed Luo Xia away and interrupted the kiss, and put down the half-removed mask. If your girlfriend knew, she would be very disappointed. Gwen, or Spider-Woman, left Luo Xia's house after she said this. To this day, Gwen still can't understand Luo Xia's kiss that night. It was clearly the second time he met Spider-Woman. It was because of this kiss that Gwen is now very entangled. In her heart, she even had a strange idea. She hoped that the true identity of the devil was Luo Xia. In this way, Luo Xia, as a devil, also knew that the true identity of Spider-Woman was her. So Luo Xia kissed Spider-Woman. In this way, Luo Xia still respected her relationship with her. But soon Gwen denied this idea. The devil is a criminal, an anti-hero, and evil. As a girlfriend, she should hope that Luo Xia has nothing to do with the devil. Gwen was walking on campus with these strange thoughts. She even deliberately took a detour to pass a cobblestone path. Suddenly, someone hugged her from behind. Gwen quickly broke free. The reason why she reacted so violently was that someone approached her and her spider sense did not alarm. Gwen, you hung up on me on the weekend, and just now you resisted my hug. Gwen turned around and saw Luo Xia rubbing his hands while saying, I'm sorry. Gwen was full of apology. She pulled Luo Xia's arm and checked it carefully. She accidentally used a little too much force just now. If it was an ordinary person, it would definitely not be able to bear it. But it was obvious that Luo Xia was not seriously injured. He skillfully pulled Gwen into his arms and put his hands around her waist. Gwen was not too surprised by this. It was not the first time that she felt Luo Xia's specialness and mystery. Is it not allowed to hug your girlfriend? Luo Xia looked into Gwen's eyes. It's just a little sudden, Gwen explained. I thought it was someone else. Someone else? Then he must want to be beaten, and it's the kind of miserable one, Luo Xia said firmly. Gwen smiled silently. I allow you to use violence against him. Luo Xia lowered her head and kissed Gwen, and Gwen responded, but she lowered her head and ended the kiss after a few seconds. What happened between us? Luo Xia hugged her and didn't let go. I can't see love in your eyes. baby. Gwen shook her head. She looked at Luo Xia's face and suddenly had other ideas. And other logical possibilities. Luo Xia knew the true identity of Spider-Woman. He knew that he kissed Gwen that night. And Luo Xia had nothing to do with the devil. He was a superpower hidden among ordinary people. Gwen's mood improved for no reason. Seeing Luo Xia, her troubles always disappeared quickly. She determined this possibility. Luo Xia knew that she was the superpower of Spider-Woman because she believed in her boyfriend. Nothing happened between us. Gwen looked at Luo Xia and said seriously, I love you as before. Thanks to the book friend Little Monster 3 years old for the 5,000 point building reward. Thanks to the book friend Lego Great Devil for the 100 points. Thanks to the book friend Zeu for the 100 points. Thanks to the book friend It's really hard to come up with a nickname for the 500 points. Chapter 72, Separation of Good and Evil. Have you watched the news? Last night at the Stark factory, Iron Man fought another Iron Man. A fat Chinese boy in the classroom said excitedly. Finally they even fought in Times Square, and Iron Man's head was opened, and the person inside was actually Obadiah Stane, the director of Stark Industries. Another classmate said, the whole New York knows about it. Please, everyone will go online. It was also reported in this morning's newspaper. So who do you think Iron Man's true identity is? The fat boy said mysteriously. Tony Stark, or his bodyguard? The classroom was instantly filled with discussions. Which billionaire would personally do such a dangerous thing? Isn't Tony Stark the editor-in-chief of Gossip? I see his name in every issue of Entertainment News. Stark Industries is holding a press conference now, and Chairman Tony Stark will personally explain the identity of Iron Man and the issue of Director Stane. The fat boy said, holding up his mobile phone. Is anyone placing a bet? Bet that Iron Man is Stark. Gwen listened to the discussions and took out her mobile phone curiously. She turned to look at Luo Xia at the back table. Iron Man will be the playboy. Tony Stark? Gwen said with some disdain. The first time I saw this name was in an entertainment magazine. He had dinner with 12 magazine cover girls in a row. But he is also the best scientist in the world. The weapons he invented far exceed a government's arms manufacturing department. Luo Xia said casually, the iron armor must have been invented by him. It doesn't matter who wears it. Of course it can only be him. That guy is too arrogant. You seem to know a lot about these superheroes. Gwen stared at him with a smile in her eyes. No, I'm a fan of the devil. Luo Xia denied. Everything is just speculation. Now Mr. Stark will issue a statement and will not answer any questions. Thank you. The live broadcast of the press conference on the mobile phone is about to reach its climax. Amid the exclamations of the reporters and the flashing of the spotlight, Tony Stark quickly stepped onto the stage. The answer is about to be revealed. Gwen put her phone on the desk, and she propped her chin with her hand. But even if he is Iron Man, I don't think he will admit it, because that will cause more trouble. Questioning the official statement is one thing, and insinuating that I am a superhero is another. The person next to him reminded Tony, and Tony picked up the manuscript. Actually, the truth is, Tony stared at the small note and was stunned for a moment. I'm going to the bathroom. Luo Xia touched Gwen's head with his hand and said. He got up and left. Don't you want to know the answer? Gwen said to his back. Luo Xia turned around and smiled without saying anything, and he walked out of the classroom. Gwen stared at the screen. There was no sound in the classroom or on the live broadcast. Now countless people were holding their breath waiting for Tony to reveal the answer. The spotlight flickered on Tony's face. The camera kept zooming in, and his eyes slowly became firm. I am Iron Man. Oh! Exclamations came from the classroom and the live broadcast, and both the reporters on the scene and the students watching the live broadcast were boiling. Gwen turned her head and stared at the direction where Luo Xia left. It was not until class time that Luo Xia entered the classroom as the bell rang, and Gwen did not have a chance to talk to him. When the teacher entered the classroom, Gwen looked back at Luo Xia, and Luo Xia smiled at her. She was stunned. Luo Xia's smile was so strange. Gwen knew Luo Xia's smile very well. He would habitually raise one side of his mouth 45 degrees, smiling a little bit ruffian, and even make people feel a little disdainful, like a proud villain laughing at you. But now Luo Xia actually showed 8 teeth when he smiled. Gwen's feelings can be described in one word: spring breeze. And Luo Xia's eyes revealed warmth, very pure. Gwen threw these messy thoughts out of her head and opened her textbook. Luo Xia, or the evil Luo Xia, was flying to the Triskelion, the headquarters of SHIELD, and Pierce had just contacted him through that email address, saying that it was an emergency about the Devil Plan. The Devil Plan was certainly important, but Luo Xia couldn't skip class and slip away, so he upgraded the Tiger Talisman and used the power of the Tiger Talisman clone to let the kind clone go to school for him, while his subjective consciousness controlled the evil clone to rush to the Triskelion. Fortunately, the more surprises on Iron Man last night were triggered, allowing him to gain 200,000 villain points, otherwise he would not be able to upgrade the Tiger Talisman. The Tiger Talisman can be used even if it is not upgraded, but the disadvantage is that the subjective consciousness can only stay in one clone, and the cautious Luo Xia naturally cannot let the other clone escape from his control. A few minutes ago, at the Triskelion, Captain America had just had a quarrel with Pierce about the attack on Director Nick. Director Nick Fury has been confirmed dead in the early hours of this morning, and both the hospital and S.H.I.E.L.D. have presented death reports. In the internal archives of S.H.I.E.L.D., the people who attacked and killed him were demons and winter soldiers. But last night, Nick crawled out of the flames, and his desire to survive was amazing. He woke up many times during the rescue process and had a secret conversation with Captain America, and no one knew the content of their conversation. So this morning, Pierce asked Captain America what Nick said before he died, but Captain America evaded him, which made him very dissatisfied. Captain America walked straight to the glass sightseeing elevator after leaving the office, and pressed the button for the first floor. The sightseeing elevator went all the way down, and there were people taking the elevator on the middle floors. When the elevator reached the middle administrative floor, it was already full of people. Captain America observed these people, all of whom were employees of S.H.I.E.L.D. "Captain, I'm sorry about Fury." Agent Rumlow turned his head to him and said sadly, "What a tragedy." "Thank you," Captain America said. The battle-hardened Captain America soon noticed the little movements of these people. Some of them were sweating nervously, some couldn't help but press their hands on the handles of their guns, and some were adjusting their breathing. "Before we start, does anyone want to get out?" "Ziz." Rumlow adjusted the electric baton in his hand to the highest power and stabbed Captain America's abdomen fiercely. Agent Sitwell was watching the fight in the elevator through the surveillance, and he widened his eyes and couldn't believe it. "Are you kidding me?" In just half a minute, all the agents in the elevator fell to the ground and lost their ability to move. Captain America easily dealt with them without any effort. The current scene is Captain America attacking the guards of S.H.I.E.L.D. and walking out of the door of the Triskelion. It is now Level 1 alert. Notify the Ministry of Transportation. All intersections in the special zone will turn on red lights and block all runways at nearby airports. Sitwell issued an order to a group of employees: track all communication devices, phones, computers, tablets, check everything that can be checked. If someone tweets about him, I also want to know immediately. We must capture Steve Rogers as soon as possible. Chapter 73, Arresting Captain America. So he broke through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s guards by himself? Where did the security funds we give to S.H.I.E.L.D. every year go? I think the first thing the new director should do after taking office is to find out the financial problems of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the past. A director said angrily. On the top floor of the Triskelion, the World Security Council was holding a video conference, and representatives from various countries attended the meeting through 3D video. "Mr. Pierce, as the supervisor of S.H.I.E.L.D., you are also derelict in your duty in this matter," said the female director. "You allowed Nick Fury to mess up S.H.I.E.L.D. Do I need to resign?" Pierce said helplessly, spreading his hands. "We will discuss this matter later." "Have you really thought about firing me?" Pierce's face was full of disbelief. "Nick Fury used his friendship with you to force the council to delay the Insight project. He knew that this plan would expose his crimes." A director was very angry. Pierce said, "But he is dead, and there is a murderer who is still at large. Arresting the demon is the job of the next director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now we have to restart the Insight project immediately," the director said firmly. The 3 sky carriers must be launched before Christmas Eve. This is the meaning of the existence of the World Security Council. We must make the world truly peaceful and protect the people from the threats of terrorists and criminals. After the video conference, Pierce returned to his office. He was stunned for a moment after pushing the door open, and then took a step back to look at the empty corridor. Then he entered the office and closed the door. "I hope you were careful enough when you came and were not discovered by others, Mr. Demon." Pierce did not go to the sofa area where the demon was, but sat behind the desk, as if this would give him some sense of security. "Before you say these stupid things, you should use your brain to think about whether S.H.I.E.L.D. deserves my caution." Luo Xia looked at him sideways. Pierce was a little trembling. The demon seemed a little unusual today. He saw not only weirdness and horror from the mask, but also a hint of gloomy evil. "It seems that the devil is in a bad mood today, but who dares to mess with the devil in New York?" Originally, Pierce wanted to ask the devil why he attacked the Hydra people last night. He lost the powerful trump card of Winter Soldier, but Pierce felt the state of the devil today, and swallowed all these words back in his stomach. After all, there is not much difference between the Winter Soldier being imprisoned by S.H.I.E.L.D. and being controlled by him. He can easily create the illusion that the Winter Soldier escaped successfully, and these things are insignificant compared to the Insight Project. Well, it should be called Devil's Project in front of the devil. "I apologize for my remarks, Mr. Devil." Pierce was flexible. "Let me explain the situation to you first. Just this morning, Nick Fury was confirmed dead. We held a meeting to confirm that, Steve Rogers. I came here just to listen to your nonsense." "I look like I am very patient," Luo Xia said coldly. "Speak to the point." Pierce's forehead was sweating. "Steve Rogers escaped. Nick may have told him some important information. If you don't want the devil plan to have any accidents, I think it's best to let him be controlled by S.H.I.E.L.D. until we get the information from him." Luo Xia actually sneered. He stood up and walked towards Pierce. Pierce's back was pressed against the back of the chair. He had nowhere to retreat. Luo Xia walked in front of Pierce, grabbed Pierce's collar across the desk and pulled hard. Bang! Pierce hit the desk heavily. He groaned and rolled back and forth on the desk, which almost broke the bones of the old man. "Are you threatening me, old man?" Luo Xia said coldly. "If there is any mistake in the devil plan, I promise you will die miserably, and even Jesus can't stop you." "I'm not threatening you. I have put more effort into this plan, and all of Hydra hopes it will succeed." Pierce endured the pain. "But Steve Rogers will be an unstable factor, and my Winter Soldier cannot be used, so I can only rely on you to take action." "It's hard to imagine that with the little power you Hydra have, you are still dreaming of ruling the world all day long." Luo Xia threw off his collar. Luo Xia pulled a few pieces of toilet paper to wipe his hands, and then threw them on the ground. Pierce watched the demon fly over the glass and disappear in the air again. He slowly stood up, picked up the papers and threw them into the trash can, and then returned to his seat and sat down to think. Sam Wilson served in the 58th Division Airborne Rescue Force and worked at the Veterans Service after retiring. Thanks to that unforgettable military life, Sam developed the habit of exercising every day. Sam returned home after finishing his morning exercise this morning. He just opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of drink when his door was knocked. Sam lifted the blinds and found that the person outside the door was Captain Rogers, the running man. They met each other while running together. Sam opened the door without hesitation. "You look bad, Captain." Sam stared at Captain America's arm, which had stopped bleeding. "Sorry, I need a place to hide now," Captain America panted, "although I really don't want to involve you." "Well, now I'm involved." Sam smiled nonchalantly. He made way and motioned Captain America to come in. Inside the house, Sam was taking out the first aid kit to help Captain America deal with his injuries. "So what happened?" Sam was very curious. "You were Captain America. How did you become a fugitive?" "There are problems inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Even the top leaders have been infiltrated by Hydra. Director Nick Fury died. Now it is a mess. Who can kill Nick Fury?" Sam was surprised. It seems that he has also heard of the title of the King of Agents. Devil. The devil on the streets of New York? How could he be involved in the struggle between Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D.? Sam fell into silence. Captain America hesitated when holding Sam's phone. Director Nick told him the full content of the Insight project before he died. Director Nick knew the current situation of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he also gave 3 agents he could trust: Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Maria Hill. But now Captain America doesn't know who to contact. He doesn't even know what the current situation is. Suddenly, the door was knocked again, and Sam and Captain America immediately became alert. Captain America was about to enter the bedroom to hide. He used his eyes to ask Sam who the person outside the door could be. Sam's face was full of question marks. He signaled Captain America to hide first and went to open the door. Sam first carefully opened the curtain. He held his breath at just one glance. Chapter 74 Evil. Bang, bang, bang. The demon looked at him through the glass. A chill rose from Sam's back. He was still at a loss. But the demon's face had changed. He looked very impatient. Luo Xia stretched out his hand, and the extreme high temperature generated by the dragon spell instantly melted the bulletproof glass. He quickly grabbed Sam's collar. As soon as Sam saw Luo Xia's movements, he was pulled to the door. His face and body pressed against the glass. Give you 2 choices: open the door or die. This door could not stop the demon at all. He could easily break it open with violence, but he still wanted the owner of the room, Sam, to open the door. Sam felt the demon's strength and arrogance for the first time. Sam's face was difficult. He struggled to touch the handle to open the door. No one would doubt that the demon's threat was just to scare people, and he just heard that Director Nick of S.H.I.E.L.D. died at the hands of the demon. Luo Xia let go of his hand and pushed Sam, and Sam fell to the ground. Luo Xia walked into the room. He had already felt that Captain America was hiding in the bedroom at the back, but he was not in a hurry to find Captain America. Mr. Devil, what is your purpose in coming to my house? Sam asked with courage. He forced himself to stay calm, because he could lose his life if he was not careful in front of the devil. Luo Xia didn't even look at him, and shouted to the house, Captain Rogers. Even if Luo Xia knew that Captain America was in the house, he was not interested in pulling Captain America out, but wanted Captain America to come out by himself. It was like playing a cat-and-mouse game. Sorry, Mr. Devil. Sam came up. Although he was extremely afraid of the devil, he still wanted to help Captain America delay time as much as possible. Sam tried his best to explain. You may be mistaken. My name is Sam Wilson, a retired soldier. This is my private residence. I don't have. Before Sam finished speaking, Luo Xia lifted him up with one hand and threw him out, smashing a glass table with a loud bang. Did I let you speak? You are not Captain America yet. Luo Xia folded his arms, looking at him with disdain. I'll give you a little punishment first. Luo Xia's palm shot out a column of flames, and he waved his palm to destroy the sofa, floor, and wall in the room one by one. The exquisitely decorated apartment became a mess in Luo Xia's hands in a few seconds. The expensive electrical appliances were still emitting sparks when they exploded, the walls were pierced, and the charred marks on the floor were still smoking. Sam was dumbfounded. This was the apartment he had worked hard for many years to buy, but all of this was burned to ashes in the hands of the devil. Captain America in the house couldn't help but clench his fists when he heard the noise outside. He had imagined escaping through the window of the room. After all, Hydra was brewing a conspiracy, and he had a great mission. But if he escaped, the devil would definitely take Sam out on him. Sam had nothing to do with this matter, and he was the one who dragged Sam into it. Captain America's sense of justice would not allow him to escape, even when facing a powerful devil. Luo Xia slowly walked in front of Sam. Are you angry? Do you want to hit me? Swing your fist. Be braver. Fuck. Sam swung his fist with all his strength, and he aimed at the face of the devil. Luo Xia knocked him down with one punch, and then pinched Sam's neck and lifted him up. Captain Rogers, my patience is limited. Luo Xia smiled triumphantly. Count down to 3 seconds. If you are still hiding in there, I will burn him to ashes. No need to count down. Captain America appeared in front of Luo Xia. He still couldn't convince himself to escape. Put him down, devil. If you have anything to do, come to me. Okay, as you wish. Luo Xia threw Sam to the bookshelf beside him with all his strength. The wooden bookshelf was smashed, and Sam fainted among the scattered books. You bastard. Captain America swung his fist angrily, but he only hit a phantom, and Luo Xia, who was at full speed, easily knocked him to the ground. After passing the Super Soldier program, Captain America became the first superhero. In that war era, he was powerful. With just a shield, he could destroy the Hydra base single-handedly. But in modern times, Captain America is not that powerful, especially in front of Luo Xia. Luo Xia has the extreme speed of rabbit spell LV11, and is completely crushing Captain America with a single means of attack. The first time you punched me, you were beaten into the hospital by a panda. Luo Xia kicked Captain America, who rushed up again. The second time you wanted to stop me, but I still killed Nick Fury. He was wailing in a sea of fire. Do you want to try that feeling too? You still dare to attack me now? Captain Rogers, it seems that you haven't learned enough lessons. Luo Xia smiled evilly. He grabbed Captain America's hair, pulled up his head and slammed it on the ground. Captain America raised his head, his face covered in blood. Are you in the same group as Hydra? A very bold idea. Luo Xia was stunned for a second. He lowered his head and said with a smile, "Long live Hydra." After that, Luo Xia continued to lift Captain America's face and smashed it on the ground. In the greenery a few hundred meters outside the apartment, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent saw the scene of the devil beating Captain America with a telescope. "Sir, aren't we going to rescue Captain America now?" he asked. "The devil who killed Director Nick is also here, so we can just arrest him together." After the agent finished speaking, everyone around him looked at him with complicated eyes, and the agent instantly felt like a thorn in his back. "I approve you to fight alone. Go ahead." Agent Rumlow patted his shoulder and said, "I will help you apply for the highest level of pension." Rumlow turned his head and looked around at everyone, and some agents who understood his eyes nodded, and those people were members of Hydra. "We still need to wait," Rumlow whispered. Boom! A ball of fire flew from a distance, hit the ground and exploded instantly, and the powerful shockwave blew away all the agents. Midtown Institute of Technology, Biological Laboratory. Gwen's phone suddenly vibrated. She left the crowd, took out her phone in the corner of the classroom, lowered the volume of the phone's media and played it close to her ear. Calling headquarters, the devil and a group of unknown people had a gunfight on 13th Street. When we arrived, we found Captain America unconscious in front of a residential house. Gwen secretly used her father George's authority and easily invaded the New York Police Department's communication channel. This was very helpful for her superhero work. Gwen could know the crimes happening in each area, and it would be more effective to fight criminals with less effort. It could also help her eliminate dangerous areas. For example, the devil was in the area. Listening to the conversation between the police officers, Gwen stayed where she was. Although the devil was causing destruction again, she felt a sense of joy in her heart. Gwen looked at Luo Xia in the crowd with a warm face. Chapter 75 Chicken Spell. Superhero Falcon detected. Chicken Spell has been unsealed, and can be upgraded with villain value. Try to make Falcon feel negative. More surprises are waiting for your exploration. Just now, there was another unexpected gain. Luo Xia's 6th talisman was unsealed. Now he has completed half of his goal of unsealing 12 talismans. Chicken Spell LV1 can make the holder fly, and is also effective on objects. It cannot be effective on objects with too large a mass, nor can it be effective on objects that are too far away. Chicken Spell LV1 upgrading to LV2 requires 10 W villain value, greatly improving the distance and mass of the controlled object. You can control objects within 20 meters and with a mass of less than 3 tons. The power of the chicken spell can be enhanced through system upgrades. After the upgrade, the distance and mass of the objects that the chicken spell can control will continue to increase. Moreover, after the chicken talisman is upgraded to a certain level, it can also bring the following functions. LV3, the object can be a living being. LV7, multiple objects can be controlled at the same time. LV11, you can use the rabbit talisman to increase the movement speed of the controlled object, but the movement speed of the controlled object will not be higher than the maximum speed of the rabbit talisman. LV12, you can control any object to move, regardless of the mass of the object, and it is not limited by space and distance. After finishing all this, Luo Xia switched his attention to the clone affected by kindness, and stopped the clone power of the Tiger Talisman. Now the clone affected by the evil concept is flying at high speed after being invisible, ready to merge with the clone affected by kindness. What was I doing just now? I actually destroyed a home that someone had worked so hard to build. I killed several Hydra agents who were fighting for their ideals. I'm so despicable. Luo Xia stared at his hands with regret on his face. And this system is getting worse and worse. However, the power of the chicken talisman is still very useful. When upgraded to level 2, it can control 3 tons of objects within 20 meters. It is very cost-effective. Luo Xia spent 100,000 villain points without thinking and upgraded the chicken talisman to LV2. Now that Luo Xia has been strengthened to the equivalent of the Magneto Plus version, the talisman status has also been updated. Number of villain values, 0.9W. Rabbit Talisman LV11. The status cannot be upgraded. Dragon Talisman LV11. The status cannot be upgraded. Rat Talisman LV1. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 52.5W. Snake Talisman LV3. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 62W. Tiger Talisman LV2. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 103.5W. Chicken Talisman LV2. The villain value required to upgrade to LV11 is 112.5W. What were you mumbling just now? Gwen said behind Luo Xia. Luo Xia turned around and looked, and Gwen couldn't hide the joy on her face at all. No student could smile in class. It seemed that she had received the news that the devil was destroying things outside. Luo Xia knew that as long as he didn't take the initiative to reveal his tracks in the future, Gwen would not associate him with the devil. What a pure, kind and gullible girl. Luo Xia couldn't help but sigh. He used a little trick to play Gwen, the Spider-Woman, in the palm of his hand. Luo Xia softened his heart a little. He looked at the joy in Gwen's eyes, and slowly felt guilty. Huh? Gwen tilted her head and smiled at him. I said the teacher was too cruel. He actually injected the little white mouse with a drug that had not yet succeeded. Gwen was stunned. In her impression, Luo Xia was not a kind person. You don't want to use these experimental drugs for human experiments, do you? Gwen guessed boldly. That's not allowed. But little white mice are also lives, Luo Xia said seriously. Gwen looked at Luo Xia with some doubt. For the first time, she found that Luo Xia's acting skills were good enough to conquer Hollywood. You are right to think so. In the toilet on the first floor, a black guy was squatting on the toilet. He was looking at the tweet the National Security Department rescued Captain America from the devil. He laughed strangely. The devil blows up everything. Suddenly he felt a vibration. The black guy put down his phone in a daze. The vibration became stronger and stronger, and he felt that it came from the toilet under his butt. What? The black guy just wanted to get up, and he was pushed to the ceiling together with the toilet. The ground collapsed, and a lizard monster slowly crawled out of the sewer. The black guy who fell to the ground was cursing, and his voice stopped abruptly when he saw the lizard man crawling out. The lizard man put his head close to him, and the black guy's face was pale and he was shaking with fear. He couldn't help but urinated. Where is Peter? The lizard man questioned. What? The black guy was confused. I don't know anything about Peter. The lizard man waved his claws, and blood splattered out. The shrill screams in the toilet instantly attracted the attention of many people. Some people seemed to have recalled bad memories and immediately fled to the exit. He was probably an eyewitness to the tragedy at the dance that night. Of course, there were also brave students who walked towards the toilet, wanting to find out what was going on. A group of terrified students were fleeing at the corner, and behind them a huge lizard man came out. After seeing the lizard man, everyone's curiosity disappeared, and they screamed and fled to the door. Luo Xia, what are your plans for Christmas? Gwen asked with her head tilted. Before Luo Xia could answer, the commotion outside suddenly spread to the classroom, and Gwen frowned and looked over. The students walked to the window and watched. It's that lizard man, the fat boy shouted. Where is Peter? The lizard man would ask this question every time he caught someone. He looked extremely angry. He would throw away the students who could not answer the questions and continue to look for the next target. Many people were injured, some had broken bones, and some had head injuries and fainted. But in the narrow corridor, the students could not evacuate in time. What was worse was that there were several stampedes. Seeing that the lizard man stretched out his claws to a girl again, swish! A spider silk shot from behind and caught his claws. Gwen quickly changed her clothes and rushed to the scene. She pulled the spider silk hard, and the lizard man was also pulled to the ground and slid under the huge force. "I thought you had disappeared from New York." Gwen pulled the spider silk to keep the lizard man away from the crowd. The lizard man turned around and cut off the spider silk with his claws. He pulled the spider silk hard, and Gwen also flew in that direction. The lizard man swung his claws in the air, trying to cut Gwen in half. Fortunately, Gwen shot the spider silk again in the air and stopped. "Where is Peter?" the lizard man asked Gwen in anger. "Peter?" Gwen was a little confused. "Peter Parker? He has dropped out of school." After hearing the news, the lizard man could no longer control himself. He turned around and waved his claws, and a row of lockers were chopped into pieces by him. Dr. Connors recently discovered a new mutant in New York. He was surprised. With the death of Norman Osborn, this technology should have disappeared, and that mutant was stronger and more perfect than him, without any defects. After some investigation, Dr. Connors learned the truth. It turned out that Peter and Harry Osborn created those mutants. What made him even more angry was that Peter used a perfect formula to create these mutants, and before that he gave himself a wrong formula. Thanks to the book Friend, Little Monster is 3 years old for the 1,000 point building reward. Thanks to the book Friend, Teachers EEU for the 101 point reward. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.